Hey everybody, I will be getting started in just a few seconds. We got kind of a variety stream today. We're going to check things off the to-do list and just have a nice cozy little chat. Hope you guys are doing well today. Those of you that were up really late with me last night playing KOTOR, thank you again. I had an absolute blast, and now I've gotten some good sleep, and I have some good caffeine, so I'm ready to come back at it. Also, a huge shout out to Emotional Support Unicorn, who raided like right as I was wrapping up, but wanted to say you are an amazing human being, and I just wanted to make sure that you got a shout out there because I totally appreciate that. I had so many awesome people last night. I had a blast. It was pure Pazok, and it was good stuff. So I am going to kind of just set up. Today, like with most Sundays, I am just kind of focusing on getting those little to-do list items off. Nothing too crazy, not starting anything new. I mean, can't ever make that promise. It's me. But for the most part, just kind of getting through the old to-do list. So I still have this rainbow stocking, which I have out. And then I have my little buddy pie. I forgot to finish painting them before my boutiques, and I'm going to give them the love that they didn't get from me. Alright, cool. I'm just going to throw my phone over here, put it in mom mode, and okay. So if you guys join me for this at any point, you kind of recognize where we are in the process. I'm making a rainbow gradient here, and now I just got to put my pieces back together, which is something I think we need to all do. Oh, there's my sentence you don't want to hear from a crafter. There's my missing needle. No, I knew it was in here, just slightly errant. Went to rogue. Yeah, I'm just getting my pieces back together, which is something I need to do IRL. Just every once in a while. Take stock, figure out where I am, and just make sure I'm not going off the deep end anywhere. Because it happens. So, putting all these bits back. I have all these lovely oranges. I feel like I'm missing pieces, which is also like, oh, yep, it's right on the floor. It wouldn't be my studio if there weren't pieces everywhere. At least they're brightly colored. Perfect. That's just my phone. Nobody needs that. You guys are here. Okay, so there we go. Now I have a little bit more variety too. What I'm also going to probably need to do is make some more for the edges. Okay, I lied. I'm going to pick up my phone. I'm gonna try to be responsible on occasion. There we go. Just bringing that hot mess energy real early into the stream. Blow up my sleeve. Get serious. I don't know, there's something about cuffing my sleeves that just makes me feel like I'm gonna sit down and accomplish something, you know? Normally it's about 3 cuffs. Because as my daughter would say, 3 is a good number for everything. Which I love when kids just like adopt catchphrases, and I'm not sure if it's, and why do any of us adopt catchphrases, but I love it when they just stick, and it's like, okay, that's a thing now. Not sure where it came from, not sure how long it'll be with us, but it's a thing. Oh, Oh, I do have more green. Okay, so see these little pieces along the edge here? These were ones that didn't make the cut originally. Maybe they were slightly the wrong tone, or like this one was super cool, but it was a little bit too half-toned for the gradient, like in the wrong neighbors. So I can cut it up and get really good use out of it, actually. It's kind of like a puzzle where there's no real answer, which feels like life. I was having troubles with OBS, so I'm kind of wondering if this is actually even working. You guys let me know if you can see things. Yeah. Okay, there we go. Cool. All right, it is working. Well, I'm glad to have you guys here. For some reason, I had everything hidden, and OBS is being strange to me, but technical difficulties aside, everything else is going really well today, so. Alright, it's back to our puzzle with no real answer. I have all these really gorgeous oranges that I need to transition to. Actually, I don't even have that many oranges. So I'm looking in this family here, these rich brights to the crimsons, to the cranberries, which I really love. I love the color cranberry. Okay, that's probably enough fussing, because by the time I get back up there, I'll probably rearrange it 6 more times anyway. So if you are joining me for the first time on a crafting stream, if you came from Star Wars last night, welcome. Again, I had an absolute blast playing KOTOR last night, and that was something that started very self-indulgently and then turned into something super special and honestly very, very healthy, and I'm very thrilled for that. So thank you for indulging me and then supporting. That was really nice. If you missed the Star Wars chat last night, I was playing Knights of the Old Republic, the original 2003 game for PC, but it was re-released on Switch, and so that made it much easier to play. I joked about the controls being about as clunky as I am, so we were vibing, but it's a good experience. And then got rated by the most wholesome Star Wars community ever, and spent the night making prequel jokes and memes, and stayed up till 3 in the morning, and it was fantastic. So definitely a departure from what we normally do, but I think that's what's fun about life, and it was a really, really fun thing. So now it's going to be a regular thing until it gets a slightly more on-brand name. We are calling it Star Wars Saturdays. So I will do my Makers and Crafters stream in the afternoon, and then switch to Star Wars in the evening while we play our way through Knights of the Old Republic, and then probably Jedi Academy, and or I give in to the inevitable urge to make a Star Wars costume, and we do that. Low-key thinking Bastila, so I think that'd be kind of fun. Cool. Yeah, I was talking to my mom about how I've been Star Wars characters for Halloweens when I was a youngling. Yes, and Tauntaun jokes, thank you. You guys can see my trusty steed behind me. So both in the ways of inevitably making everything cowboy, but then also just for the ability to make Tauntaun jokes. I have my trusty steed behind me, as Ink Rabbit was so polite to point out. Thank you. But anyway, I've been Star Wars characters for Halloweens. I was Yoda when I was 8, and I was C-3PO, with one of the like licensed rubber masks that mine came from a collector who hadn't placed it in proper storage, and so the mask kind of melted. But like I don't know, 13, and I didn't care because it was cool and it was like official merch, and so I wore my poor lopsided face with like the most terrible metallic suit that I sewed myself from like metallic Joann's fabric, which I would never do again, but I was so dang proud. I'm pretty sure I had like wires taped to my stomach. But I was C-3PO, and I was like my Star Wars idol, and it was the best. And then here's some actual street cred. I was Admiral Dala, and I made my like badges and stuff out of like nail polish and a gum wrapper, so it looked like the like insignia. Nobody knew who I was. Absolutely not a soul when I was trick-or-treating, walking around in a like khaki tracksuit with a gum wrapper stuck to my chest, but I was very proud. And I'm trying to find pictures. I just asked my mom today if she could help me dig some up. So I'll put this in the Discord. But since being like an actual cosplayer, I have not made a Star Wars costume for myself. And I was trying to figure out why. And it was more that like Star Wars kind of hit a weird lull, just in the, like before all the like streams were crossed, like only a couple people wore like Star Wars costumes to anime cons and vice versa, and now I'm glad it's just one big, just like massive thing. But I was on like the anime side of things, and then like Bastila would have been way too obscure for that, and then I wouldn't have been able to find her lightsabers. Convenient excuses aside, I wanted to do a Saj Ventress when I had my hair cut really, really short, because shoving all of this under a bald cap would be a lot. And so at one point I had my head very nearly shaved, all the way, not just the undercut. And I was going to do a Saj Ventress, but that's right when life got complicated. And so I didn't. And then, wanted to do Shakti, wanted to do Ahsoka, didn't have the latex skills. So there's just always one of those things where it always kind of got backburnered. But then my cosplay focus shifted once I had my daughter, and it's been amazing to make tiny geeky costumes. I will put some in the Discord because I'm really proud of them. But we went to Disneyland for her cousin's second birthday, and my daughter and her cousin are like the same age, so they were both 2. They were tiny, and I wanted to make a Disney costume, but I was like, you know what? For the first time in like my geeky life, I'm gonna be excited that Disney bought Star Wars, because that makes like Queen Amidala like Disney royalty. So I made Padme's picnic dress, the lake picnic, the yellow dress from episode 2, for a 2-year-old. And it was the tiniest, cutest. I was so proud of all of that like meticulous detailing, because of course Padme's costumes are just... And then I made it for a 2-year-old. But then even more so, I'm like, wait, I've never made myself a Star Wars costume. Not with the level that I put into things. We did some Disney bounds too. I did an Ahsoka Disney bound, and Little Sprout's dad was Captain Rex, and it was super, super cute. All of us walking around together. And, which, yes, is what Ingrab is putting in chat. I will, with your permission, put those in the Discord as well. But yeah, so no, I haven't done like a legit me Star Wars costume. And playing KOTOR last night, it made me re-fall in love with Bastila Shan, which like never stopped. She is snarky, and I love her. And, in the way that a lot of Star Wars people are just kind of white with brown hair, I look like her. And it's like, hey, I could actually pull that off. And so as I was playing, I was looking at her costume, and it's like, I could do that. And then I could be Bastila Shan. And that would make my KOTOR-loving geeky heart very, very happy. And so it's good because, yay, it's fun to, like, think about projects. But it's bad because, like, the last thing on earth I should do is start another project. But on the other hand, like, I don't know, things are kind of starting to open back up, and maybe there'll be conventions again. And it's been really fun. Okay, so, like, Little Sprout, my daughter, she's 5.5. This year for Halloween, she was Toadette. But not just not just Toadette, not just I'm, a background character in the Mario universe Toadette. She was Captain Toadette from Toad's Treasure Tracker. And at first I was worried because it's like, I know what it's like to like obscure characters. I was really worried that like no one would know who she was, and I was worried that it would like affect her self-confidence because it takes a little bit of geek armor to be ready to roll up to the battlefield as the obscure character. But no, she didn't care. She just wanted to be Toadette, and it was amazing. And sometimes I forget the kind of power that kids have. They're like, I don't care if anybody knows who I am. I'm doing this for me. I'm doing this because I love this character. And sometimes I need to get out of my own head about that. And that's I think that's been the most amazing thing, is everything that I'm like able to teach her, she's able to teach me back tenfold. So I'm looking through it through the perspective of like the jaded nerd who used cosplay to come out of my shell and, had to go through life first and then recover and put on that geeky armor. And she's just like, I want to be a cool character. Can we make this happen? And I think it's good to kind of approach from both sides, because I also see the confidence that she has, and I can speak for days on how cosplay and theater in general can benefit mental health. But yeah, no, she just was excited. And what's cool too is, though, like, people did recognize her. Video games have gotten to the point where kids just knew. I mean, we went to like a little Halloween event in our local area, and there were like 15 kids dressed as Mario characters. And like, yeah, I know kids like Mario, but that was such a big change, from years past. And the kids knew who she was. So that made me happy. And then it was also like, yes, I made her recognizable. But anyway, so like, putting the cosplay energy into her is amazing. And it's not that I've like stopped cosplaying either, but like, went through some stuff after having a baby, and it's like I already had some like body issues with like gender dysmorphia, and if you're new here, I identify as genderqueer, and that comes with some territory to traverse, and I was going through a lot. So it was just, I didn't want to like tarnish the things that I knew I loved by like mixing in things that I hadn't sorted out yet, if that makes sense. Like, it wasn't anything that I couldn't overcome, and obviously I'm here, but like I needed to get my head on straight before I just like jumped back into things. But like now I'm cool, and I'm cool. I know who I am and where I want to be and what I want to be. But now it's also too, I think I got the convention bug again by just going out to a craft fair with my books again for the first time in 2 years. So I was hit with a lot of feels last night. And then you guys being so amazingly supportive. It was like, this is why I love the geek community. Like, it was like the best thing. But also then it was like my brain got that like green light. Like, we can go ahead. It's safe to be a nerd. You may proceed. And now I want to make Bastila Shawn's costume. So that's how my brain works. Which I don't, like, let me know, you guys, if that's something that you'd be interested in, because I like to make. Again, if you're new here, I'm Catherine. I go by Catherine Everything. I like to do just about everything. I am a single mama. I homeschool. I do art. I was classically trained as an animator. I write children's books. I have this bus where I do my practice. I'm a fiber artist. I do a little bit of everything. If it's something I can get my hands on, I'm going to try it. And that also, you add on top of that being a nerd, that comes with a lot of like really fun geeky things where, yes, I cosplay and I love to just make armor, and just, I'm still mourning some things from like the COVID shutdowns right before all of the craziness in early 2020. I was set to teach a Warbler class at Michael's. They had their really cool teacher program where you could, like, as an independent person, you could contract with Michael's and teach your class in their studio. And they were carrying Warbler, which is the thermoplastic that a lot of cosplayers use. And I call it forbidden gingerbread. But it's like imagine a melty plastic that when it's cool, like at room temperature, it is firm, and then it's malleable by heat. But then it has a little bit of like, almost like sawdust in it, so it's got some body. It's sandable, it's paintable. It's pretty magic stuff, actually. And so the class was going to be teaching armor making to like 13-year-olds and up. And it was not only like, let's use this material and do cool stuff, because like we have some amazing resources with YouTube and everything on how to like use Warbler, but it's another thing to jump in and touch it. I'm a very tactile person, so a lot of times I'll be describing what things feel like just because it's a sensory thing that my ADHD brain very much enjoys. But yeah, like that's why I love teaching, and I love teaching in person as well as online. But in person, yeah, you get to touch the materials, and that's so important. But in addition to being tactile and part of the class, what I wanted, really the main, like I'll get you in the class with the Warbler, I'll bait you in with the shiny we can make cosplay. But then I always like to have kind of an more symbolic lesson in my teaching. And we were going to be making bracers, because it was like, I think it was a 1 to 2 day class. So it had to be a quick project. So we were going to make arm bracers. But what we were going to do was kind of a just quick deep dive into like making these characters. And even if you didn't go like literal, there's still like making armor for yourself can be such a healing thing. Like, even if you just do it in like an aesthetic style and you're not making yourself into like a very literal, like, oh, I'm making armor to protect myself from X, Y, and Z's life triggers, still the very cathartic act of consciously making armor for yourself, it really brings to light a lot of the things that you like feel the need to protect yourself from and maybe feel attacked by in the world. And especially like I love working with middle school kids. That was the worst time in my life. I don't think anybody has a really good time with it. But I had some stuff nearly break me in middle school. And so like I like working with that age kid, because a lot of times they're just very lost and so much is changing. And I really want to be the person that I needed back then. So anyway, like working with middle school kids and then having them like symbolically create armor, is just like a really important thought exercise. And then you get cool armor out of it. So, I didn't want to get too heavy handed, because kids can see right through that. But just the working with something and kind of, even if you never say it out loud, just making the armor and then thinking about what you'd be protecting yourself from. Really good thought exercise. So that was one of my teaching things before the pandemic here. I've got a knot tied. But it really brought back just what cosplay like did for me. And just those like really big important feelings. Because like it's very easy to simplify to the point of almost dismissing. I would argue it's really easy to simplify like nerd hobbies, like, oh, you play dress up, or oh, you play video games, or oh, you paint miniatures. But there's so much more that goes into it, and like on a lot of levels, there's obviously the artistry and the just knowledge and everything that goes back into that. But especially with cosplay and anything that involves role play, it's theatrical, it's performance. But I found that like the best costumes that I did were the ones that like allowed me to work something out, to put on another character's skin and be them. I was a Rock Lee cosplayer for a great number of years. So from the original Naruto, the one with the bowl cut and the spandex. And being Lee gave me a power that I didn't have. Lee was incredibly talented in the ways that his society was different. In ways different from his society. If you are unfamiliar, we're going to do a little bit of a Naruto dive here. Rock Lee was a ninja that couldn't use like the magic of their ninja society. And so he was doing everything that everyone else did without magic, just pure physical strength and pure physical training. And yes, of course, it's an anime, so it was over the top and unattainable, but still the fact that he was able to do things by being different, and it wasn't like they didn't treat it like he was lacking in any way. I mean, like, yeah, of course some characters made comments, but like once he showed what he could do, it didn't matter. It was just, I'm different. Sat with me in a way that like I don't think I realized until 10 years later. But just I again, if you're new to the channel, I was diagnosed with ADHD as an adult, and I am undoing a lot of like crutches that I made for myself, and kind of trying to undo a lot of masking that I developed over that time. And so like now obviously like and I love watching like TikToks on people like realize like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense looking back, like either if they were like closeted and then came out, or late diagnosis on things. It's like, how did I not know? But you don't. I firmly believe that in life you are making the best choices you can with the information that you are provided and that is available to you and that and if you have no idea about these things and you don't have access to the right help, or the especially in, I speak from an American, North American perspective, an American perspective here. Like, if mental health is just not a thing that's prioritized, like in your community or with your doctor or anything, you're not going to know. You're not going to know. And so, yes, sometimes I am self-deprecating about that in an attempt to use humor to alleviate some of that hurt. I don't think there's anyone at fault for it, and I don't, like to live with blames and regrets. It's more of a just, I didn't know. But of course, now in hindsight, 2020 is, hindsight is 2020. Yeah, it was really freaking obvious. But I didn't know at the time. And so, yes, connecting to these characters that were like on this other spectrum of weird and had to find a workaround for things and couldn't just do the ninja things the way the other ninjas did. It just, yeah, now it's really obvious. But being able to be Rock Lee as far as being a cosplayer, it just, the other cosplayers, the other actors, it was improv, it was performance, and we just understood on a level that I don't think we really understood, but we understood each other on a level that was like unspoken. And it gave me such a confidence to be even more different. And it's like, well, I was already a nerd dressing up as a ninja in full body spandex. Like, what more permission to be weird did I need? But it was different. It's a psychological thing. It's very different. In chat, oh, my little Sprout says likes how the yellow looks like honeycombs. That's okay. You can always interrupt, baby. If you see InkRabbit12 chatting about Little Sprout is our daughter, and sometimes she likes to jump in on chat, and that makes me very happy. So hi, Little Sprout. It does look like honeycombs. After freezing my booty off yesterday, staying up way past my bedtime playing KOTOR, I went inside and made myself the best cup of tea with honey. And it was probably just because I was super cold. I didn't even like use the kettle properly like the heathen yank that I am, but I felt so good. So good. I was so cold. So yes, I like honey. Maybe someday I would like to keep bees. I want to do my part to like stop the bees dying, but I have to get some infrastructure in place first. If you are new here, I live on a little bit of a ranch, and someday hope to move to. I'm in between places right now, and life has taken me where it's taken me. But I'd love to have big gardens and more animals. We've got goats and chickens, and at a sweet little pumpkin patch this year, and we're growing carrots, which Little Sprout really loves. But I'd love to have more gardens to take care of when I'm a grown up again. And I see you guys are jumping in. If you are just joining me, hi, I'm Catherine. I use she, they pronouns, and I am very, very happy to have you here. I am chatting today. It is Sunday, which means it's time for me to check some stuff off my to-do list. And maybe not start anything new, but more focus on getting these things finished. So my Sunday streams tend to be a little bit more chaotic, just because I'm, I've got projects that aren't like enough of a stream on their own, and we just finish them and we just chat, which is really nice. I love the kind of chill energy it brings, and we can just hang out. But last night I was mixing it up and was playing some KOTOR, some Knights of the Old Republic, the original a 2003 game, not the MMO, and met the most amazing Star Wars community, and stayed up really late, froze my butt off in the bus, because yes, I am inside a school bus. That's where I do my art practice, and it was very cold, and then made myself a cup of tea, and now I'm back out here. But my point was dolphins. I don't remember what my point was. My point was, if you're new here, I'm really glad to have you. And, I'm catching up on this hexagon English paper-pieced Christmas stocking. And so if at any point you guys have questions about what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, how I'm doing it, please jump on chat. I love to teach. If you didn't catch that from the Warbler class rant there, teaching is one of the things that I really love doing, sharing everything from, just craft to mental health to deep dives into Star Wars lore. I love to teach, I love to share, I love to have a conversation. So I'm always really tickled when that works out, especially when all of those streams intersect. But for the most part, I craft and make art in this school bus. So I'm, as part of my kind of lead up to the holidays, I am getting some family Christmas projects done, and just doing a little bit of crafting. So this is English paper piecing, which is a sewing technique where you use little bits of paper, wrap your fabric around them, and you can get very neat geometric edges. So these are hexagons, or hexies for short, which is adorable. I don't know, I very much enjoy the incredibly specific vernacular when you get into like the deep dive of something. Give me those nerd terms. That's the stuff I live for. I love words. And so just, running with the brain that I'm running, sometimes I'll use a word in a sentence and I'm like, I know that that's right, but I'm going to have I'm just going to look it up. So I'll yell at my, I call it Googs, but my Google, just so it doesn't affect your guys' equipment. And I'll be like, hey Googs, define this word. And it's always kind of, I don't know why it always hurts my pride a little bit when it'll define a word for me and then be like, that's archaic. Excuse you, Google, I just used it. It's not archaic. So just getting insulted by our AI overlords is always an interesting. All right, so my mod is working on my Nightbot, so we will have my social links and everything, which has been great. I really love, not only is the Twitch community super supportive, but they're always pushing me to, get more integration and just fix things up. And it's good because I need that little kick in the pants, but also I am a voracious learner. And so when you guys throw things at me and you're like, oh, do you have this? Do you have that? I'm like, no, but I will. So I really like how supportive you guys, and understanding when things don't work the first time or do work the first time. You guys are the best audience and kind of have seen me through some thick and thin, and I appreciate that. Which also I want to take a second and say a super huge thank you to everyone who has followed me since the beginning or since yesterday or today. I am really just honored that you guys would want to spend any amount of time that you have floating on this rock in space with little old me here in this bus geeking out about things. So it truly, 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 truly means the world to me. And you guys are super amazing, and I just crossed the threshold to be eligible for Twitch affiliate last night. And I was, just absolutely happy tears. Absolute happy tears this morning when I got that notification. So thank you so much, guys. Obviously, I cannot do this without you. And so we did it. We did it. We did it. And I'm beyond chuffed. I'm beyond tickled. So thank you so much. Like I have said, a couple times, I want this to be just as much fun for you guys as it is for me. So if I mention something like making a Star Wars cosplay that you guys would be into, please let me know, because I can definitely find ways to keep myself busy, but it's also fun to know that you guys would want to be along for that ride. So And again, I'm always down to take on specific projects to explore a skill, even stuff that's new to me, or stuff that I'm familiar with, to explore it together, or to take on a more teaching role and let you guys kind of deep dive with me. So if there's anything you guys want to explore more, let me know, because I am down. But in the meantime, we're going to keep chatting and do some English paper piecing. So I'm just using a ladder stitch to join these together, which is kind of a simple, you have two panels and you boop, 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 and when you pull it tight, it creates the tension, brings them together, and your seam allowance is nice and even, and it just looks like this. What's really satisfying about the English paper piecing is, like I mentioned, it kind of uses forms a foundation, and those are these paper foundations here, but as you kind of connect all the sides, and once all the vertices kind of have a partner, you can take out the paper. Hey, I am doing super well, Hugo. How are you? I am doing super well. Thanks for joining. But yeah, you get to pull out the papers, and it's super satisfying. I think a lot of times what crafting does so well for the brain is it has these parts that are just so endlessly satisfying. Like if you've ever watched, resin pours, or when people like pull the protective backings off of like acrylic charms, or they're weeding vinyl, and it's kind of that like same category as like food porn, but it's just like that visual ASMR. This one's got a tactile, goodness gracious, sense as well, because the papers make this little crinkle noise, and then you get to pull them out. And what's cool is the paper is what keeps it stiff so that you can actually do the work, but then pulling the papers out returns it to soft fabric. And so it like changes its state of matter, its state of being. And there's kind of a joke in like the quilting world that you take perfectly good fabric and then cut it into small pieces and then sew it back together into one big perfectly good piece of fabric, which I'm not saying is wrong. But there is something about joining all of these and then pulling out the foundations and returning it back to fabric, because that's kind of like how it's supposed to be, and just returning it to like its original state. It's like taking off a cast or pulling off a band-aid. But yes, Hugo in chat, I'm glad you enjoyed my Star Wars tree. Yes, they sent me the coolest pictures of a like fully decked out Star Wars Christmas tree, which made my heart super happy. They have like some of the talking ornaments and stuff too that are just really neat. It was really, really tastefully curated and very, very well done. So thanks for sharing that with me again. It's cool to see. I love seeing how people fly their geeky flags, and it's just neat. It's neat to see what's out there. It's neat to see people's collections. Collections say so much about a person, like even like among the same fandom, what people like specialize in, and what they choose to collect and display. It's neat. There's, a lot of psychology behind that, and also just a lot of fun nerd interest. So I like seeing your guys' Star Wars collections, which reminds me, I've got a Discord, and there are a couple Star Wars channels on there. So if you guys have Star Wars stuff to share, especially as we do, like Star Wars Saturdays and stuff, feel free to share your nerdery. We have a serious one, and then we have a more like meme Star Wars like post one. Yeah, you're super welcome, Hugo. It was really, really cool. Really cool. And I have a couple things to share with you guys in Discord. I did promise some silly, geeky, throwback costume photos, so I will share those. Both my, like, I'm 8 years old and have access to construction paper and made myself a Yoda costume, and the, like, I'm a legit cosplayer, and here's the Queen Amidala picnic dress I made for my 2-year-old. So, which is also a fun way to see how people's skills evolve. Like, I don't know, I love seeing the, like, where I was and then, like, where I am now, like, memes and art challenges, because sometimes in the moment, it's hard to see growth. you know, especially because like even project to project, I can like have successes and have failures. But like, you know, you start looking over like a decade and it's like, oh my gosh, like I've improved. I really did it. That's what hard work will do. Like we have a lot of moments, I think, in crafting where things that are obvious to outsiders maybe aren't so obvious to the maker, but it's like, wow, I can make things. You know, when I make things and I work really hard on making things, I can make things. But again, I also don't want to lose that because I think that's kind of a magic. And if I got complacent and just I'm like, yeah, whatever, I make things, it wouldn't be as fun. So I'm going to kind of continuously dork about the fact that sometimes magic comes from these hands. Sometimes pure and utter chaos comes from these hands. And to illustrate my point, I just made a pretty fantastic knot mess. Because if anything, Stream has been predictable in if I am confident about something, then I'll immediately dork up the next thing I'm doing. But yeah, it is what it is. Keeps me human, keeps me humble, keeps it silly. Also, it's just real. That's one of the things I definitely love about like watching Twitch makers. Okay, so like I also do YouTube. I have a YouTube channel. You can also use the exclamation point YouTube to get that. Nightbot will help you out there. But like what's interesting about like YouTube is I'll do a project for like 20 hours and then distill that footage down to 20 minutes. And then, of course, like now with all the YouTube shorts and like the Instagram reels, then that gets cut down to 20 seconds. Well, like obviously, especially in the 20 seconds, you don't have time to show like the mistakes and the dorking and the learning, which is great when you're just kind of looking for like good successes and just kind of that like, wow, that's cool. But that's why Twitch feels so much more real is, well, it is, but also like, you know, I worry, especially like as a parent, I worry about kind of that like immediate gratification and just seeing everyone out there only posting successes. You know, that's not real life. Like crafting, a lot of it is just learning and growing. And yeah, when things go good, you should be proud of them. But you could also be sewing for your entire life and then make a giant knot that you have no idea how to untie and just have to cut it out. Which, yeah, obviously on a 20-second YouTube short, I'm not going to show. But maybe not even on a 20-minute YouTube video. But I like that it just feels more real to be like, hey, yeah, no, even if I am a professional at some of these skills, or I have a degree in some of these skills, or I've been doing these skills my entire life, things still happen. And I still carry some big hot mess energy. So in staying true to myself, I gotta occasionally be a giant hot mess, apparently. So I think that's also just a confidence thing, too. Like, I am shy. This is helping a lot. Cosplay helps a lot. Vending at like artist alleys helps a lot. But yeah, shyness is hard. And then, like I said, I was masking for, you know, nearly 3 decades prior to the ADHD diagnosis. And so like just learning how to people again with the help of, you know, psychotherapists and all that kind of stuff is big. But then also just being like, you know what, I'm not a robot that doesn't make mistakes. I am human, and that's what makes my work good. So I've got to embrace that flaws and all is refreshing and something that I'm, you know, still trying to work on. And not get like flustered, like, oh no, they saw me make a mistake. It's like, yeah, and it happens. Like I have to remind myself, it's not like it gets any less heart rate inducing and it's still scary. It's like, no, I want you guys to learn. I want you to like respect me as a mild professional. But you know, things really do happen. And I was having a really interesting discussion with somebody about how like failure, actually in a lot of ways it has been one of the most like creative tools, just being allowed to fail and then having to come back from a failure, even if it's something little, like just a stream not going how you want it to go. If you never do that, then you don't know how you're going to react the next time something goes down. And it's not like it's fun. It's not like I love being like embarrassed or not in my element, but it's that whole like growth happens, you know, outside your comfort zone type thing. So, and then yeah, it also just doesn't seem like this stuff is unattainable magic either. Like I like seeing the crafters and the makers and the gamers that I love making mistakes too, because, it keeps them human, but then it also, like, it's relatable. It's like, oh yes, I've done that. I've also dropped that stitch. I've also, whoops, forgot to turn on that piece of equipment, or like, we're humans. We're just humans. So thank you for being humans with me. And I also hope too that, like, that's something that, like, this next generation won't have to worry so much about, is like that kind of performative, like, I joke about, like, working at, like, my booth and being in, like, NPC mode, and I spend a lot of time worrying about being palatable to other people. So much so that, like, I almost erased my entire identity just making sure I, like, fit into neat little boxes that other people defined, but meh to that, I say. And so I've had some really supportive people on chat say if I'm too much, they can go find less. And, that's okay. Like, I don't have to fit into neat little boxes. And it's actually kind of more freeing to know that I might never fit into a neat little box. And if I have to make myself my own hobbled together little box, that's okay too. So, if you're feeling like you don't fit into a neat little box, well, welcome to the club. And that's why, like, for me, it was, like, really important that the bus be this safe space, where just people can fit in. We don't have to have a box, we have a bus. So it's also just really nice to see how things have changed in the zeitgeist of, say, like, the nerd community and stuff. I think back when it was something that we were teased a lot for, it was pretty common for people to get almost, like, aggressive about defending their nerdery, to where it even, like, spilled into the community. Like toxic gatekeeping, and if you don't know every single little fact, then obviously you're not a fan. And then there was, like, the whole, like, fake geek girl thing that was really damaging. But now I think people are just like, nah, man, I like it. I don't have to be a master and expert. I don't have to own prop replicas and know somebody who was on it and know every single fact. And if I can't calculate along the Star Wars timeline how many years before the Battle of Yavin this was, I don't belong. It's like, nah, cool, man. I was talking about this yesterday. Like, it's fake and in space, and we can just enjoy it, like, in the absolute best ways. And that's cool. And I'm seeing less and less gatekeeping, and part of that comes with just geek culture being, in vogue, which, we talked about last night, just being, like, a little hard to accept. The things that we were, like, bullied for are just, like, popular now. But it's better. It is honestly better that way, because, like, I'm raising a very geeky kid, and I do not want her to go through the same shit that I went through. So it has to change. And anytime there is a shift, hopefully it means we're learning to be better to other humans for what they like or look like or present or wear, and we aren't just garbage people. So here's to seeing small, slow changes in nerdy communities. Because really, at the end of the day, like, I love when the nerdy communities are the accepting, amazing places. Like, my first D&D group I ever joined, it was like, these are my people, cosplaying groups. Just, walking into a Ren fair, it feels like coming home, Like, that's the magic of being, kind of, like, that's the magic of being a geek. And just, we're magic. We blend the borders of fantasy and reality, and tell stories and make things with stories. And at the end of the day, that's what I want to be proud of, and that's what I want people to think of when they think of, like, being in the nerd community. It's not all the toxic BS that, used to be in it. And I'm glad to see that it's going away. Very, very proud. Like, we're doing it. We're getting rid of that negative image, and we're moving forward. So every time I just see support, it just makes me really happy. So what I'm doing here, if you guys can see, is I'm creating an ombre. So I'm having it do, like, a rainbow color shift. And so I'm working with the pieces that I have and just trying to make the most, like, not jarring rainbow here. So I might have to move into the pinks pretty quickly. So I'm just moving pieces around because I want it to flow the best I can. Like, I don't love this jump. But I also apparently don't have that many oranges, which I thought I had more of. Which I can guarantee you that as soon as I sew this all together, I'm going to get up and there's going to be pieces, because that's me. I also have a cat and a small child, and the bus is like just under just at 100 square feet, so it's plenty, but it's not huge, and things go walkabout, and I'm just taking a cursory glance to make sure that they're not really obviously like right on my other desk or something. But no, I think I'm just gonna take a sip of coffee and read some chat. Jingle says, I had a really nice conversation with my sister about being a geek girl and how back in the day she felt like she had to prove that she's a real geek. Luckily, she has 5 brothers that have been training her since birth. And I'm glad you guys were supportive, and that's awesome. It absolutely was a thing, though, the proving. And it just took so much energy. And not to speak for everybody, but just to speak for myself, it almost like killed some fandoms for me, because I didn't know every single thing at every single time. And then something I don't talk a ton about, but I have some health things, mental, physical, but I had an issue with some memory loss, and that was devastating to me, because it's like I know that I know these things, and I read all these books, and I had, I knew that canon timeline, and I knew this expanded universe, but like if I couldn't immediately recall it, then like I would get in my head and feel really stupid. And no one deserves to feel that way, regardless of what they're attempting to recall in their brain. And the brain is such a complex organ, and we just don't have a good grasp on mental health, so no one deserves to feel that way ever. But like, it's even worse when it's like in something fun. Like, this was supposed to be fun. This was supposed to be my thing. And then people, they're like waiting for that one chance that you slip up on knowing something so they can dismiss everything. And it's like, when did it become like that hostile? If I don't know something, I want to learn. I firmly believe that if you're like the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room, because you should be finding people that know things that you don't know. And so this like very know-it-all gatekeeper thing. Yeah, the mind is a terrible thing to lose. And yeah, it is. But like if it's just a contest with a bunch of people sitting in the room that all know everything, what is there to talk about? I want to learn. And so I'm like, that shift has been really good, because yeah, if we can't learn with each other and explore and theorize, what are we doing? If we all just know everything, if we're just Wikipedia, that's not any fun. Like, did you know that? Yeah, of course I knew that. Well, did you know that? Yes, of course. Okay, cool, great discussion. But instead, yeah, let's talk about things and relate it. Like, there was a half joke, not joke, in the KOTOR stream last night where we were talking about how swoop racing was symbolically the duality of man, and like that's what I want to talk about. I want your wild theories. I want your like, hey, the symbolism here, or even just the feels. Hey, Jingle says I really like your philosophy. I need to remember that same mindset. It's hard. Like, I'm not going to even pretend that I didn't have times where I was bitter about some of these things. I mean, like one that's called character growth. But it's I don't want to be bitter about the things I love. And that's, that I think that's what did it for me, is it's like I spent so much time like ready for the attack all the time that I'm like, why am I carrying this shield? This is fun for me, or supposed to be fun for me. So being able to put that shield down, yeah, it's scary. No one likes to let their defenses down in anything. No one wants to feel dumb or attacked. But yeah, after a certain point, it was just kind of like, okay, let's just, I'm not gonna play your games anymore. And that comes a lot with like facing your bullies and that kind of stuff. But I also just surrounding yourself with better people, which is why like you guys are so cool, is there wasn't even a hint of that gatekeeping and stuff. But we could like very healthily explore our frustrations, because we've all been through very similar things, and that's completely valid and should be talked about. Just because it's all, fine and accepted, and you can walk into Target and see 60 Star Wars shirts, doesn't mean that the like hurt wasn't there. Doesn't mean that we didn't feel alienated. But I think it's just healthy to talk about, and things come with time, So, I like to think that I'm healing alongside with you guys, and we do it in the form of memes and silly discussions, but then also like really heartfelt stuff. So, which is like why like I said, I was playing KOTOR was to reclaim it. It was like the best game for me at the time, but I had other junk going on, and I'm playing it now as the person I would have loved to have been when that game first came out. So, here's the character growth. Cool. All right. Trying to. So my mod BioJ, they are figuring out all the Nightbot commands, but apparently we can roll dice. So I'm gonna utilize that. I didn't know that was a thing, especially as we're playing KOTOR, which is space D&D. Okay, so when we talk about like my geek history, I did things very backwards. Actually, you know what? Just major asterisks there. When we talk about my life, I did things very backwards. So like I didn't have video games growing up, like at all, except we had PCs in the house very early, and we had like edutainment games, but we didn't do like video games until like I was in middle school. And so KOTOR was my first video game, which is like the weirdest place to start. But like I had a lot of experience with like computers and even like building computers and like the very technical, very, very geeky side of things. And so, yeah, little backwards. And then of course, like I play a lot of games, but I'm not that good at them. So I play them for the story, but I will like get hyper fixated and like deep dive on the lore. So like, for example, like Red Dead Redemption 2, I've probably only played about half an hour. But like y'all want to talk about Arthur Morgan's father and his son, and you want to go on a deep dive, because I will go. And so it's weird to like know things without like having the practical experience. And I think that also comes with just the leaving that shield at the door and not having to defend it, because like back in the day, I would never tell people, oh, I didn't actually play this game, but I know things about it, because that would have immediately gotten me like booted from the room. Like I wouldn't have been allowed, because how could I know if I didn't even play? And now I'm like, man, between Let's Players and watching my friends play it and just researching, I don't have to play the game to know things. And I got into things like counting the literal buttons on Arthur Morgan's shirt. And historians were seeing if it was historically accurate. And I love geeks just geeking out on their things, and then really just stopping to appreciate that, like, not only was that like a beautiful game, so beautiful, and just the complexity of it all. But then, yeah, there at Rockstar, there was some nerd absolutely living their peak nerd dreams, getting to tell everyone on staff how many buttons a shirt in 1899 should have had, and that was what they were like living for. Absolutely living for. And so like I think that's another side of geekery, is it's like it's not just about like technical proficiency or like, did you even play the game? Do you know everything? It's more about just appreciating those moments like as they come and being like, somebody geeked about buttons, and just being proud for the community as a whole, and then also just absolutely having your heart like curb stomped by an incredible story with a beautiful soundtrack. I'm missing chat. I'm going to scroll back up. Yeah, Jingle says, I love the story of Red Dead, but that game can be really frustrating. Yeah, no, I agree. It's hard to play. And you guys watched me like flounder through KOTOR, which I can pause and do space drugs and then keep going back. There's a lot in Red Dead that was a lot too much. And it is frustrating. And I never, like, it's hard because it's like, you don't want to be taken out of a good story for that kind of stuff. Like, my mod was making fun of me when we were playing KOTOR. He had typed in, ooh, not Clayton, which if you guys played Kingdom Hearts, on the Tarzan level, the Clayton Heartless, like, chameleon level boss fight, it took me way too many times to be able to beat that. Part of it was, not to make myself sound like even more of a geek, it was a lizard, and I love lizards, and I didn't want to kill the lizard, so I didn't want to kill the lizard, so my heart wasn't in the fight. But then also, like, just technically on a level, I was not that proficient a gamer, and that was a really, really hard fight. And I never beat Kingdom Hearts. I guess like I said, I'm kind of at the point where I don't care if I lose a nerd point for that. Well, I'll gain it back by playing clarinet in middle school band. Um, yeah, I was not a good gamer, and that game got so frustrating to where, yeah, I never finished it, and then I felt alienated, and like I just didn't have enough points to like even talk about it. But like I loved the story, and I loved that it was like Disney, and I loved that it was cute, and the whole heartless thing, and trying to like save things from redemption. Redemption's a huge thing, like redemption and like androids discovering their humanity are like my moes, like my like things. Like if we can get a story in here where like someone either figures out what it means to be human, or questions free will and what it really truly means, or they confront their morality, that's the good stuff. That is what I love. So yeah, to see it like in a really cutesy video game, but like, where we were going back through all of our like childhood nostalgia, and then we were like redeeming things. It was cute, but yeah, I couldn't play it, so then I felt stupid and like I wasn't part of the community. And so it's still one of the things where like it's not even that fun for me to like talk about Kingdom Hearts, because you've got that like baggage. And I'm like, sorry, I can't jump in video games. I don't know why. It's hard. I'm mildly proprioceptively challenged, and that apparently was my limit. But yeah, that was a hard boss fight, and it just broke it for me. So like I'm sad when people see like I'm sad when like the game mechanics get in the way of a good story, whether it's the player having issues or if it's the game that has issues. Like, anytime you play like a glitchy game and you can't get past something, it's like, but no, I want the story. And so I don't think there's anything wrong with either watching other people play it or reading about it, or just, watching, what was it, all 19 hours of cutscenes? If you stitched all the Red Dead cutscenes together, like, Oh, yes. Yeah, you guys know the scene. That's the fun thing too, is it's kind of the universal like geek language we all speak, where it's all references and memes, but you guys get what I mean. You guys know, and instant dose of feels when the references are made. But yeah. So yeah, I think that's one of the things too that like new advances in technology have brought us. Like, Twitch wasn't a thing when I was in high school. YouTube was just starting to be a thing. Just like I'm trying to remember exactly when like YouTube came about, or like when it became part of like my life. But if I had known back then that there would be like a supportive community of watching other people play the games, so you could still like backseat and enjoy and still be part of it without having to like be in the driver's seat, that would have been so refreshing to know, because I wanted to know. I just didn't always want to drive, extended metaphors continuing. And also we were talking last night too about like, I was embarrassing myself by talking about the Pazok deck that I had made for my like middle school crush. But like now that's cool. Now people make replicas. There's so many people that do that, and it's awesome. But I definitely wouldn't have felt like such a dork if I had known that like this was gonna be a thing. And it also, it just kind of makes me like, I don't believe in regrets. I couldn't change things if I tried. I wouldn't want to time travel because I'd screw with the universe. But it is fun to hypothesize, like, what if I just been able to know, like, hey, the weird things that you do are going to be worth it, and, like, where could I have ended up if, like, those things had been fostered from an earlier age? Just, not with a regret place, but just to, like, if I had known cosplay was going to be the thing it was. Like, I was cosplaying back in 2006, which for some people is early, for some people that's already like it had already been a thing. And we could talk deep dive about the history of cosplay and like the people that were doing it in like 77. But even back in like '06, there were a couple celebrity cosplayers, but it was just starting to be a thing where it still even sounded like foreign in the cosplay community to be like, what do you mean celebrity cosplayers? And now it's a thing, and we've got like the godparents of cosplay, with their channels and everything too. And it's like, it's crazy to think that that's a thing. That all of us that were just role playing as characters could make a genre that then would be like picked up and respected by Michaels and Joanne's carrying cosplayer branded materials, a couple decades later. Like, oh, it's crazy. Like, where are we going to be in another couple decades? you know. All right, I'm scrolling back up in chat. Dice roll, dice roll, dice roll, dice roll. Jingle says, during family get-togethers, my siblings talk almost exclusively in movie quotes. It's been a tiny bit of frustration to all the spouses that are coming in to join us on Thanksgiving. Oh, they have to catch up. That's the thing too, is like, as much fun as it is to do it, I never want anyone to feel left out. So if you don't understand a reference, I'm just going to make a channel rule. If you don't understand a reference, just tell me in chat. I will never make fun of people who don't understand references, because I hate being left out too. Like, I want you to have fun. I want you to have just as much fun as we are. And I'm sure you guys will also help, sending links to memes, or we'll chat about it in the Discord. You can whisper me. Like, I don't need to call anybody out, but like, I want you guys to have as much fun. So yeah, I can imagine that's been frustrating to the spouses coming in and being like, why? But also, like, I hope that they see it from the like, oh, these nerds are like nerding with their people, because that's also really endearing. Ian Grevit's calling me out for me watching him play Red Dead Redemption 2, and I got way too attached to Hosea Matthews, which, no spoilers. I mean, that's what's hard. It's like the game's been out for so long, but I really hate spoilers. But I was working on a deadline, a very critical deadline for getting my book published. And then somebody had to go play a cool game behind me, and I got emotionally invested in the characters. And you can't write a book and like cry over cowboys at the same time. That's a level of multitasking my brain just can't handle. In chat, OMG, YouTube used to be a place for conspiracy theories, back for alien conspiracy theories. Excellent. What a time we live in, says Jangles. Yeah, what a time to be alive. I know sometimes the like sentences that'll come out of my mouth that'll be like, oh yeah, I was just like sobbing openly over cowboys in like this hit game made by the people who also made Grand Theft Auto as I was writing a children's book. It's like, what? Yes, those were English words, but what? What is your life? What do you do? What do you do exactly? And my answer is always yes. I do weird stuff, and it's fun, and I love cowboys. In chat, one of my big brothers just got married recently, and he is making sure that his wife is fully caught up in our vernacular. Excellent. Starting with the last action hero. Excellent. Good place. Good place to start. What a lot she has to learn, but also how much fun. I think, now that we're like open to being geeks, I think there's been just a collective weight that's been lifted off our shoulders, and we're funnier about it. Like, we don't have to hide these references. It's just funny, and people get it, or they know we're making a reference, or they know we're being geeky. I don't know, it's more freeing. And whether or not that coincides with just acceptance of it, or just getting older and, giving less and less of a flying flip what people think, or if it is this collective, like, just deep breath. I find that just people are more free and funnier with it. And I love that people are sharing that with their significant others, with their friends. Like, I make references now in front of my parents that, not that I would have been afraid of, like, they've always been pretty dang supportive, but just it's more fun too, because I'm like, hey, you're vaguely aware of this, let me nerd. Like, we got my mom hooked on Animal Crossing, and that was like her first video game. So she went from like 0 to 60 with Animal Crossing. Got her a Switch for her birthday, and it's fun to see her play that, which is something I didn't think I'd ever get to see. And so, like, just watching the lingo shift. We can talk about daily tasks and experience points. There's like stuff that has just become so basic in like, not a derogatory way, just so basic because we can talk about video games. And now it's like I can even talk about it with my mom. And then like they've been great with this whole like Twitch streaming thing, and that has had a whole deep dive of like learning curve and vernacular, and just it's so different. But they're learning it all for me, and and then I'm also like watching my 5-year-old grow up with this being the normal too, and like, I know that I'm either gonna curse it into existence or it's just gonna be a thing, but like, I'm kind of waiting for the day when like she's old enough that like people low-key are like, wow, your mom's a streamer. Like, remember the whole, like, your mom goes to college thing? It's like, it's gonna be that. And this thing that I'm, like, geeking out over here about being, like, this amazing jump in technology is gonna be, like, not that big a deal to her in, like, the good ways, because we are just progressing. Yeah, I, like, low-key brag, between the Octonauts and Animal Crossing, my daughter is, like, on her way to being, what is it, an ichthyologist, a fish. She knows a lot about fish, like a lot about fish. Like, we'll pull something up in a book, and she's like, "No, that's a this, not a that," and I'm like, "Cool, I'm gonna." I can't even take credit for that. That is all Animal Crossing. Which, it's not like we obviously don't, like, let her be, like, babysat by video games or screen time or anything, but I believe in a healthy balance. Also, I figure, like, we're raising her in so many different ways to where she'll have experience working, like, with ranch animals, and then we'll till the garden, and then we'll go in and play Animal Crossing, and then we'll bake, and then we'll homeschool, and then we'll watch some YouTube. She's got favorite streamers. She's got favorite YouTubers. Shout out to Jacksepticeye, Let's Game It Out, and Markiplier. Like, obviously she doesn't watch, like, all of their content. I don't watch all of their content because I can't do scary games. I'm a big old chicken. So yeah, like, we make sure things are appropriate. But it's just amazing to me that my 5-year-old has, like, favorite YouTubers, because this just wasn't a thing, especially not when I was 5. The internet was barely, a twinkle. But, and especially, like, public use of the internet. Like, I know that things existed and then, got more publicly available. But Jingle says the only game that my mom would consider playing was the original Super Mario Brothers. Then I got her the DS New Super Mario Brothers, and I guess her horizons have been broadened. That's really sweet. I don't know, there's something, like, wholesome about people that maybe got the wrong idea about video games and now are playing it, or just didn't know what they wanted and then they find something. Like, in any genre, like, people that are like, oh, I don't know if that's for me, and then they find something that just absolutely tickles their fancy. Like, pure wholesomeness right there. I think my parents kind of got the wrong idea about video games because we were, like, right in the height of, like, Pokemon first coming out. We had a friend that very much needed help with their ADHD, and he hyperfixated on Pokemon to the point where it was detrimental to all of the children around him, because then our parents got the wrong idea about it. And when you've got something that's new, like, it's hard not to base it on the interactions that the other children are having in your life if you're working with children's media. And so, like, there was definitely a shift in, like, games that were fine and then games that were, like, I don't want to say questionable. Questionable is not the right word. And this is a hard place to, like, talk about, because it's like, again, you're making the best decision with the information you have presented at the time. And sometimes it sounds kind of silly when you look back on it. But, like, when something's new, you've got to lean to yourself. You've got to lean to other parents. You've got to lean to, like, you're figuring it out. And so, like, I didn't play a Pokemon game, like an actual Pokemon game, till I was, like, in college. And it's funny because actually they don't really do much for me, like, gameplay wise. And part of that's also, like, the people that got me into the Pokemon game were very much into the, like, the IV and the EV stats and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, listen, I love math, but really I'm trying to catch the cutest Pokemon here and make a team. I don't know if I care this much about all the breeding and the stats. I just want to, like, fight things. So, it also kind of depends on how you're introduced to it, which then why is it's important to, like, take a step back and approach things with your own knowledge and go back to a game that maybe you didn't have a good experience with, or try something new with just you. Like, because they say that, like, the 5 people closest to you really do kind of make your, they inspire your colloquialisms, they inspire your way of thinking, and it can be very healthy, and it can also be like, all right, I guess if no one in this group likes this game, I guess I'm not going to like it either. I just like to simplify it. So, like, sometimes it is better to take a step back and say, well, do I like this game or not? Or is it the people around me? Or was it the time? Was it the place? Did I have some bad experience with somebody that kind of killed a game for me and now I'm going to reclaim it? Let's see, I'm missing chat. And Grabbit says, there are stories in video games. Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. The mom passing away and the kid playing in their Animal Crossing GameCube and finding the letter from their mom. If you haven't heard that story, it's like I'm gonna cry. Just there's hidden moments that people save. I'm gonna tell a story about my parents. I found a floppy disk that had a game of Tetris on it that my parents were talking about, and they were in their high scores. They were writing about what they were going to name me. My mom was pregnant with me, and they were talking about what they were going to name me. And it's like one of the purest freaking things that I can think of, just as far as like, just like geeks being geeks in their geek element. Another chat, my mother was a single mom with 5 sons for a long time, so video games and movies were the best way she could keep us all under control. So games and movies mean a lot in my family, and I fully, totally understand that. And that's so cool that you have something that, like all of you, all five, wow, 5 sons, a strong woman. But that's great, and like now you have that forever. That's something that can like never be taken away. Is this bond over these things? In chat, another one was a racing game where they recorded the best lap, and his son found his late dad's shadow car on a few tracks and got to race with him after all this time. I know these stories, but they still get me. Yeah, and then making sure not to win, so he'd always have his dad's like shadow time. Oh, goodness. Like I said, doesn't matter how many times you hear these things, like, I don't know, fractions of memory and just the way that we connect to people and tell our stories, and these little pieces, these little bits that we'll either leave behind or leave for the next generation, or leave, especially like geeks, or it's good stuff. Plus, I'm never going to be afraid to share emotions, because one, spend a lot of time masking, not doing that, but then also like, I don't know, I'm human, and if like being able to react to these things is something I treasure now. Just not being afraid to tear up at people doing things that make genuine human connection. I'm gonna hyperfixate on this stitch, wipe away my tears. In chat, game binging has always been problematic than binge watching Netflix came out. Yeah, okay, like not everything in geekery is perfect. But okay, so that's where your sister comes in. Aw, little sister. Well, I'm glad you guys could all be one big geeky family. That is really cool. I also just love, like, that's a thing I'll kind of always keep coming back to, is just with the acceptance of geekery. Like, my kid can just, like, doesn't even have to think about, like, hiding that geek flag at all. It's just part of it. And I hope that continues to just be, like, a confidence skyrocket where, if we didn't have to hide these things, what else do we not have to hide? And what more can we, change acceptance towards? And, it starts small, but it's important. And also just seeing people be true to themselves, like, with the ability to express yourself at a young age with a Pokemon shirt, it turns into being able to express yourself, when it's not tied to a fandom, but it's just you standing up for what you believe in. Having the like little things, and not that fandoms are little things. I mean, obviously these are very formative and very important, but like when the merchandise and stuff wasn't available and you couldn't try it out and wear that on your sleeve, you didn't get to interact with the world on that level. And so then like it wasn't until you were interacting with the world and these bigger things that you then had to like learn to defend them. So it's like the best practice. Like it's these video games giving us these chances before the real life where like you get to practice debating and defending, and if somebody comes up and says, Spider-Man's stupid, and you can be like, actually no, I really like this and this is why. It's just chance, or just brush them off. It's a chance to do it before it's like absolute core central things, especially in like middle school, high school, if you're questioning your identity or your sexuality or just any sort of belief system. Like it's good to have had the like nerd practice first. And that's something that only comes with like the acceptance of it instead of just the like nerd, like, brushing it off. It's, there's a discourse, there's a conversation. It might not always be pleasant, but at least it's like a lower stakes, but still just as highly important chance to talk about what's important to you, Yeah, I really do feel like that, at least in the US, people are becoming more and more accepting of others. It's always a good thing. Like, yeah, we've certainly got our problems. And I will always push for better. And it's sometimes it's hard to like think about like, oh, the mistreatment of gamers when there are like people being still like systematically oppressed. And so this is in no way to diminish that. This is more of just people talking about their experiences however they can. And so if anyone has any perspectives, I do want to hear them. But it's like, yes, even with these, like I said, littler things, if people can be more accepting, it just starts to make things not be such a big deal when it is these big core things. And so, yeah, the more we just are better at talking about it or more accepting, it's just better for everything and everyone. And I think that's where pop culture can play and does play a huge part. That's why representation's super important. That's why, having characters that look and talk like everybody, not just one group, is important, because it's just changing the zeitgeist in smaller stakes ways that really have a really big impact. So yeah, very, very, very important. And yeah, I would agree. Jingle says, I think talking is the best way to learn and understand each other. It absolutely is. And that's what I like about what's happening here is like, we don't all have to agree, but I think a lot of us have a very similar shared histories and similar, like, kind of core memory unlocked. So we are, totally empathizing on a kind of a shared level here, but also, like, my experience is going to be different from your experience, and it's like, it doesn't make anyone's less less words are hard. It doesn't make anyone's less important or less valued or less anything. It's more just, it's just another piece of this giant puzzle. And when we have things in common and can then use them to dissect the harder things that maybe we don't, and that's where understanding comes from. And then using things like Star Wars and geeky things to explain things or even to find common ground is important. So, like, I will always defend that these things, these pop culture things, these discussions that start small and turn into really big things are important and also fun. I'm not gonna pretend it always has to be huge and deeply symbolic, but I mean, right now it just happens to be. Especially, like, I don't want to say elder nerds, because there's definitely nerds that have come way before us, but like this weird middle section where we've experienced the hurt, but we're seeing it change, and maybe we have younglings in our own lives and just kind of seeing another generational shift. It's good to talk about it too, because we don't want to accidentally bring our pain to the next generation because we didn't have a chance to talk it out. I think that's one of the things I worry the most about, is that people are still scared and hurting, and they see change, but then it's upsetting because they won't get to reap the benefits of that exchange as much. We don't get to go back and undo the teasing. We don't get to go back. But of course we want it to go away. We would have given anything for it to go away back then. So it is important to talk it out. And even if we are, like, not loving the way that we did feel, or do feel, it's okay to be bitter for a second, as long as we, like, talk it out and learn. In chat, I think a thing that people struggle with these days are being able to find what we have in common rather than what our differences are. Yeah. And it's interesting, because sometimes I feel like I don't know, like, I simultaneously, like, I talk to a lot of my friends about, like, labels and, like, search functions and stuff, and so, like, the elder nerd, yes. Okay, so, like, I am a member of the Alphabet Mafia. I am LGBTQIA+. I am pansexual and genderqueer. And it's hard because, like, I've got some friends that really don't believe in labels. And I get that. You know, we spend our whole lives, like, being like, don't call me a nerd or don't bully me for this. And then, like, to see, like, people we care about putting these labels on, it's like, it kind of, I get that it kind of feels like a target. But then, like, on the other hand, just to be a nerd here, it's like, no, but we finally have more search functions, and we can sort, and we can find like-minded people. And so, like, it's hard because it's like I simultaneously want to put, like, everything out there, like, you know, like, say in, like, a Twitch bio, it's like, oh, I love Star Wars and I love this and I'm this and I'm this. But then that can be, like, overwhelming, and it can be alienating because if people are like, oh, I don't know if I, like, belong in this community, or maybe that's too much, or I don't know what half those things mean. I, like, wouldn't ever want to, like, discourage someone from just popping in and chatting. So it's like, you know, you keep it on this maybe a less descript side, but then it's like you feel like you're not telling everyone everything out there. And so it's like, oh, hey, you didn't know I did this because I didn't put out there, but you have to come in and have a conversation before you learn this. It's a hard like, information balance between, like, having it out there with so many tags, so many labels, so many search functions that it's overwhelming, or, like, not putting them out there and then people don't know, like you said, that they had something in common with you. And it's like, but I didn't know which one to focus on. And then especially when you're, like, somebody like me who does too many things and has this, like, big hot mess energy, it's like, well, what do I lead with? You know, like, obviously, yeah, I love this stuff, but, like, is nerd the brand I want to make, or is artist the brand I want to make? And then we were talking in chat last night about, like just on Twitch streaming, like, are you coming here for what I'm doing? Or are you coming here for me? Like, is the content, or am I the content? And it's enough to drive somebody, like, batty. You know, and I like to just kind of reflect and it's like, okay, well, why do I like to watch this streamer stream, or why do I like to watch this person's content? Versus just getting, like, so up in your own head that it's too much. And yeah, absolutely, Jingles, labels are a very funny thing. Both very, very useful, and I like the idea of things sorted. I love that, like, hashtags are search functions, but I also get that, like, hashtags are very easy to kind of make fun of and are too much, and people misspell things, and then you've got, like, 6 different hashtags for the same thing, and people can't agree on anything. Why would they agree on what hashtag to use? And that's just one side of it, never mind the, like, very personal, like, this is what I'm going to wear on my sleeve. You know, so I hope this is good with you guys kind of thing. Like, it's both freeing to own them. I think that's an important, like, I hate the word phase. I think it's an important milestone to grasp your labels, wear them on your sleeve, and then, like, just kind of decide, yeah, like, am I going to lead with them, or are they still there and they're still important, but maybe that's not what I'm leading with. And I think that's kind of where I'm getting, is it's like, I know I'm a lot. It just comes with the hot mess ADHD artist nerd territory. I can talk a lot about a lot of very disparate and seemingly unrelated things, but I like to find some way to connect them all. So it's hard to, yeah, like, sum up what is it I do, who is it that I am, what labels would I use. But, you know, it was important to try them all on for size and realize that they can change, and that, most importantly, underneath it all, I'm me. And that's enough. But that's still something that the old self-confidence has a hard time with, too. It's just, yeah, I'm me. It's just that simple. I'm me. But it's, I mean, yeah, you joke, but it's not simple, and we know it, but it's still hard. You can have all the wisdom in the world, and you still have to get into it and still believe it and convince yourself of it every time. I think that's the hard part, is, like, yes, I know, but that doesn't mean, like, it's internalized to completely to the point where I'm confident in believing it all. So caffeine. Okay, so I like to call these snakes. Just gotta love yourself, which can still be difficult. 100%. Yeah, I mean, like, obviously, working on that. Obviously, like, I'm proud of who I am. I'm proud of what I've been through. You know, there's still hurt there. There's still confusion there. But, like, at the end of the day, like, I'm here. I'm alive. And that's a big deal. And, yeah, working on that self-love. So, good snakes. Yes, so these are my snakes. it helps my brain to think of them. When I make two pairs, it's a butterfly, and then it devolves against its biological thing and becomes a snake. But then these snakes are easier to then attach, because then I can sew them in rows. Because if you're looking at this very strategically, which I'll admit is something I don't always do, we lean towards chaos. Once I have like the pairs, the butterflies, and then the odd one attached, I make a snake, and then I can get the most out of my thread. So just looking at like the path here, I can get a little bit more efficiency. And then it also is really satisfying because then a whole row goes on, and it's just like big piece unlocked. It's like hitting Minesweeper and getting like a big chunk right off the bat, and you're like, yes. Satisfying. I didn't do anything but click, but it's still satisfying. So this is the only tricky part, is because you're lining them up on the vertices, but then you still need to kind of fold it back to sew it. Like this piece gets really funky because it folds this way and gets sewn here, so that when it folds back out. And so I've definitely messed that one up a couple times, just in that kind of three-dimensional, again, proprioceptively thinking there. Because space and time. Sometimes they get a little wobbly. There we go. Is that a knot from me? Thanks. Yes, wibbly wobbly, timey wimey. Which my mom is a big Whovian. I am not as much. I spend my campy sci-fi points elsewhere. But you know, I like it's cool to see all the actors come in and out of the different roles as the Doctor. And then because I exist in the fandom space, of course I have a favorite David Tennant role, which happens to be Crowley from Good Omens, and I am beyond pumped for season 2. So if you guys want to scream at me about Good Omens anytime, that is also a Star Wars, Red Dead Redemption, Good Omens, always down to talk. A very strange and kind of scattered fandom assortment there, but in my pick a mix of geeky things, it's cowboys, Jedi, and apparently supernatural angels and demons. But I didn't actually watch Supernatural, so supernatural is the adjective and not the noun. Yeah, Doctor Who always looks really fun. I think part of me is just scared of getting into something big, if that makes sense. I already have Star Wars, and that's my big one, and so then I pick smaller fandoms. And I also really, and this is why I kind of laugh cried for my daughter getting immediately into an obscure character. I tend to like more obscure things, not to be a raging hipster about it. It's more just sometimes the fandoms move at a better pace for me. Spoilers aren't as prevalent. It's not as aggressive, be it good or bad aggression, for a fandom. So sometimes these slower, smaller, kind of niche fandoms float my boat a little bit. Jingle's never seen Good Omens, but I hear a lot of good things. It's fun. If you're a fan of Sir Terry Pratchett or Neil Gaiman at all, if you like tongue-in-cheek theology, and very British middle-aged men squabbling through London as they avert the apocalypse, I would recommend. The book's good. The book is a lot of fun. The show, they did it was interesting because they're very different, the book and the show, with no spoilers, but they have very, very different personalities, and I thought that was really interesting because a lot of times, especially us nerds, we want it to be like the book, but in this respect they went with a different flavor, but still the same thing. They're both ice cream, they're both maybe even chocolate ice cream, but different chocolate ice creams, and it works so much better than I think I ever would have done if I had been involved on the creative decisions. I think my brain would have been, no, keep to the book. It's what the geeks want. But I think it actually ended up having a lot more heart Even though when Amazon made the frickin' commercial for Good Omens, it looked like a buddy cop movie, a really, really bad buddy cop movie, and it's laughable. Like, if sorry, if you've seen the series, I would recommend watching the commercial just to laugh at it. If you have not seen the series, please don't watch that commercial until after you've seen the series, because it will make you want to hate the show. That's how bad the commercial is. But then, of course, watching it ironically after the fact, it's just like, who edited this? Like, I'm both impressed that you got so far off the mark while using clips from the show, and I'm also terrified because this is not it at all. In chat, oh man, you and I are similar and not wanting to get into the massive fandoms. I prefer smaller fandoms myself. Yeah, there's absolutely nothing wrong with the big fandoms, and sometimes, like, just that big, big, big nerd energy. Like, I really want to go to a Star Wars celebration in person someday, and I know that's going to take a lot of, like, mental fortitude to kind of survive that, like, wave. But I bet, like, just, I mean, like, seeing movies at the midnight premieres for every Star Wars movie that came out, like, that kind of energy, like, that's a huge fandom, obviously, but it was like, that stuff gives me so much life. I can only imagine, like, actually at, like, Star Wars Celebration, what it would be like. And so one day I'll go. But yes, for the most part, I think the smaller fandoms just chill. And I think that's kind of like, I used to be a big nerd energy. I used to be very, very, very much into anime. And it's not that I'm not now. I think I'm just, like, looking for such specific things. And, like, I did my years in, like, the Naruto fandom that I'm, like, not looking for just, like, another shonen anime with, like, a big, massive, rambling, 300 episode plot. I'm looking for something, like, more on the artsy side, more like the like Paprika and Tokyo Godfathers, and, like, more psychological than just big punch anime explosion, which is fun. Like, and I'm absolutely not bashing it. I definitely had my, like, big geek days over that. But yeah, it's when it's not, like, when everything is just slightly not even the wrong flavor, but, like, it's just hard to, like, just do anime for me these days because I'm not finding enough of what I, like, want. And I don't want to feel like an outsider again, especially in a niche community. So, like, when I find the stuff that I love, and, like, when an anime actually catches my interest, it's fun to go back into that. Definitely, yeah, had my big weeb days. And obviously that's kind of where the cosplay and all of that kind of came in. And, big nerd energy here. I have a minor in Japanese language and culture. I studied abroad. So I'm not even going to, like, pretend I wasn't a giant anime dork. But also, I wanted something a little deeper than just Japan as anime. Like, I knew it wasn't. And got very much into studying, like, the Meiji Restoration period and kind of, like, 18th to 19th century Japan was then where my brain decided to, like, geek out on, which is another really fun thing about, like, nerdery, I guess, it kind of being, like, a gateway drug. Because it's like, oh, you like anime, go study Japan. And then it's like, okay, that's one tiny facet. But, have you heard about, like, 19th century Japan? And, oh, hey, you're an artist. Have you heard, when the, like, classical masters from, like, Western were studying Japan, and it was the whole Japanisme thing, and, oh, look at the influences that, like, Monet took from Japanese culture, and how this, like, cross-cultural thing when they finally opened their borders back up, and geeking. Really fascinating. And so it's funny, just the rabbit holes of being a geek. And how that just goes on. And then, it's fun because then you go get a degree in art, and then your mom asks you which paintings are fake in Animal Crossing when Red the fox comes, and you have art history knowledge. So yeah, using my art degree. In chat, oh, you guys talking about Fooly Cooly? Yeah, Fooly Cooly's cool. Fooly Cooly is a masterpiece. Yeah, Golden Boy. If you guys are unfamiliar with Golden Boy, okay, it was like my big lesson of don't judge a book by its cover, because Golden Boy starts out with like, I swear it feels like a 15-minute intro of this guy riding a bike in the most like 80s anime aesthetic, and I'm sorry, I don't really like 80s anime aesthetic. There's definitely like sub-styles within the anime manga genre, and that I don't like certain ones. I don't really do Gundam animes, with the exception of like Code Geass, which is like not a Gundam, yes, a Gundam anime. But anyway, I digress. So it was like 80s on a bike, and I'm like, I'm gonna hate this. I don't want to tell my friend I hate this, but he's making me watch this. And then it turns out it's this series about like a pervert with a heart of gold, and I'm like, what the nonsense is this, and why do I like it? Why do I still quote it all the time? So yeah, that's your Golden Boy rant there, and grab it. Congrats, you earned it. Jingle says, I'm also burnt out on anime too. I used to love all anime. Now I want something specific. Absolutely. Did you guys watch the Star Wars? Is it Star Wars Visions? I feel like such a bad nerd. Oh yeah, and you definitely have to avoid all the filler. Animation. Using my art degree, yes. Was it Star Wars Visions? Yes. Okay. I haven't seen them yet because apparently I am a terrible nerd. I've been distracted, and I wanted my excuse was I wanted to see if they were age appropriate for my kid, and I wanted to watch them at the same time with her, just because she got into the Ewoks cartoon, and apparently Star Wars is palatable to her when it's animated, just not live action right now. And I'm like, valid, you're a kid, I get that. But then like Rebels was too much for her. She didn't need 7 seasons. So I was like, shorts that are colorful and anime and Star Wars. So, and then I got distracted and didn't look them up. But like, oh cool. So, okay, you guys did watch Visions. Like that's the kind of stuff that I'm excited for in like the anime genre, is studios pushing themselves stylistically with an artistic limitation, like with a set of, I don't even say limits, but they had to keep to Star Wars. So there was the thematic limitation. Obviously within that they could tell any story they wanted, but sometimes it's that, like, we talk about, creativity within limitations here, where when you have a prompt, sometimes you get something better than if these studios had just made, okay, like, do something kind of space operatic. Could have been cool, could have been really cool. But yeah, then sometimes like being like, but okay, make it Star Wars. It can be really stifling, like when corporate does like Star Wars. I hate it. But like when artists do Star Wars, like that's what I was excited about for Visions. Okay, so it says episode 2 is for sure safe. I need to continue, and Jingle says should be safe for your youngling. Okay, cool. I kind of assumed, but then it's like you never know, and I didn't want to traumatize her, because I think as a parent, anything that you like expect and want your kid to get into, they're going to give you resistance on. So I'm like, oh, cool, I'm going to have a Star Wars kid. And she's like, I don't know, mommy, I don't know if I like Star Wars. And I'm like, okay, well, you're your own person and I respect you. But also, will you try? So I'm trying to find ways for her to connect. And so like it's been the Ewoks cartoon. It's been the Galactic Heroes toys. It's been like finding the ways that it's palatable for her. Like, you know, I love that she loves all the creatures and that kind of stuff. And I get that she's not ready for like intergalactic politics or like, you know, Sith law or deep lore, deep dives or anything. But yeah, it's always like the things you think they want them to like, of course, well, I love this, so they're going to love it. And then they pop out as autonomous little humans. How dare. No, I'm just kidding. No, I love it. And it's really cool to see the stuff that she gets into that like I love like the Mario games. They're fun, but like, sorry, but the Marioverse can be a little weird. And so she's of course like totally in the Marioverse and loves all of like Bowser Jr. and all of the kids and everything that I always thought were a little like, especially like stylistically, I thought were a little odd. And it's just because that's of course, but obviously big picture here. Very happy that I have a happy kid who has their own interests, loves their own nerdy stuff. And at this point I'm just being, you know, silly because, geeks are going to geek, of course. And, you know, in some ways it would be too easy if just she magically loved everything I loved. And it goes back into that thing about just, you know, if everyone in the room has the same knowledge, is it really any fun to talk about? So, you know, kind of one of those, you might not get what you want, but you get what you need. And I just, like I said, love to see her geek flag fly. So whatever she's into, I'm 100% supportive of. It's just really funny that you think you're like, oh yeah, well she's gonna grow up with all the Star Wars stuff, so obviously Star Wars is gonna be cool. And then she's like, it's like this cool, Mom. I'm like, oh, ouch. Yes, hashtag geek's gonna geek. Absolutely true. You cannot stop a geek from geeking. You just might not be able to control the flavor of the day. So, but yes, Little Sprout loves the group books. Okay, and like that's another thing too. I don't know how many of you have younglings in your life in any capacity, but there have been a huge emergence of like geeky children's books. Like we're talking like little golden books type books, nighttime story books. And now there's all these like tie-in ones to like every time a Marvel movie is released. And then there were like Star Wars like alphabet and number and counting books where it was like, count the wampas, 1, 2, 3. Look at the tauntauns. And I'm like, yes, please, please. So like these storybooks, there's one that we read to Little Sprout a lot called like Beware the Flurkin. And of course it's the Flurkin from Captain Marvel, slash all Marvel stuff. But like it's funny and it's from like the cat's point of view, and he's just, it's just, what is his name now? Goose. Talked to, being a flurkin and then slurping things, and it's just full of like really fun onomatopoeic, big action words on the page, and it's just good fun, and it's like, that's cool that it's like geek flavored instead of being like, I don't know, Goodnight Moon for the millionth and a half time. Oh yeah, and they did it with D&D as well. There's a D&D ABC and a D&D 1, 2, 3, which are just hilarious. And very, very well done. Very, very cute illustrations, and they're official D&D books for the smallest of adventurers, which is just really pure, honestly. It's just, again, it's, that somebody at like Wizards of the Coast or a publishing company or whomever, however the deal was presented, was just absolutely like vibrating with excitement about getting to make like D&D for like the smallest people. And I love that. Like that was their like geek goal, and they made it happen. Like, can you imagine just getting to share that? Like, it's fun enough as a parent to find the book and be able to share like the hobby. Like, it'd be fun to make something like that. A Jingle says in chat, my first expanded universe book was a book made for middle schoolers, so it was cool to see even back then. Yeah, it's really neat. We were talking about like all the Star Wars novels and stuff last night. Did you guys also have the DK, the Dearling Kindersley, like companion books where it would like show like a Naboo N1 starfighter, and it would show like all the like engine components, and it was like all the cross sections where it was like the same level of like attention that DK books give to like Shark Anatomy, but like it was Star Wars, and it had all the like little like figure one and the little annotations. It would tell things about like both costume and like deep dive lore, and so it'd be like, this is Dooku's lightsaber, see the curved grip and the leather inlay on the handle, it symbolizes this, that, and the other. Like those were my jam. I would like draw from them, and try and memorize all the little facts and figures, all the like little annotations about Star Wars. Yeah, the visual dictionaries, that's what they were called. Thank you. I need a D&D math book that teaches how to add proficiency bonuses correctly. That would be a super fun course. Like practical mathematics with D&D. Like, actually, you know what? Okay, like we're getting close to stuff like that. That would be a cool book. That'd make an awesome course. But again, like I don't know how into small children's education and things that associate with that, but there is so much gamification of kids learning today. Like I thought we had it good with the 90s edutainment games, because one, those were like absolutely like the bomb.com. But okay, so like Little Sprout is playing this game right now called Prodigy, and it's a math game. It's an MMO. And so you're on there with your little wizard. It's an MMORPG with math. And so you're a wizard, you have pets. It's got like a whole, Pokemon component where you capture these pets, and well, you're freeing them from the bad guy, and then you get to evolve them and trade them, blah, 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 blah. But to do spells, you have to do math. and there's potions and there's modifiers and there's equipment, and things have bonuses, and it's like it starts at first grade. That's a lot of math, and it's fantastic. And to like very proudly brag on my kid. She's in kindergarten, but she is doing math at the first grade level, and so we were able to move to Prodigy and do this MMO math, and it's cool. It only goes up to 8th grade, I think, which is a bummer because I like low-key wanted to make myself an account just to play because it's so appealing. It's a sprite-based game. You've got quests, you've got all sorts of things, but it's like it is not casual in the best ways. It's got all these cool, like, not only is it just math and education gamification, but like it's like a real legit MMO, and there's some really good math in like the back end for like homeschool teachers and parents like myself. It's like shows all the state standards and everything, and then like where her proficiency lays and where like I can help her on my outside of the game, and it's cool. It's really, really freaking cool, and like that wouldn't have happened without like the acceptance and the change in like nerd culture being okay, and video games not being these like terrible rot your brain things that people thought, especially in the like late 90s, early thousands. It sounds almost as fun as the typing of the dead. Typing the dead, you want to have an anxiety attack, man. Like the most fun anxiety attack, play Typing of the Dead. Which if you've never played, it's a typing game, but it's like an arcade zombie game, and so like you have to type to like defeat the zombies, and it's like the Jurassic Park arcade game where it's like got all that movement and the different, I guess any arcade game that's a shooter, but you're typing, and so it's like just pure chaos, but it's educational. It's educational. It's educhaos. Might help if I could actually speak English before I try and make portmanteaus. You were saying in chat in Grab It that you were thinking about, we've thought about starting Little Sprout on D&D. She's amazing at math. But then, yes, in Grab It found Tales of Equestria, which, if you're unfamiliar, is My Little Pony D&D. And again, like, it's so cute, but it's legit D&D, just simplified in the best ways. Instead of having all the stats, intelligent, charisma, wisdom, blah, 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 you have like 4 and three. So it's a lot simpler, but it's the same concept. It doesn't have as steep a learning curve, so it's way more accessible. And, like, you can lose health, but you can't die. And, like, nobody likes to be the noob D&D player that comes in, spends all this time on their character, and, like, immediately gets KO'd. Not a good feeling. Typing of the Dead is a mod of the house. Is it really? I didn't know that. That's funny. Well, then there you go. Well, if you got a good thing going, then make it educational. But yeah, so Tales of Equestria is My Little Pony D&D. And so, yeah, instead of like 8 stats to develop, you've got 3, and you can't die. And like instead of feats, you have like friendship things, and there's no, like, you have like a quirk so that you can learn to bring in like a negative attribute and still role play it, and it's balanced and fun. And then of course, like, it's cool to, we were talking last night about how I absolutely abhor children's media that does not have lore. I do not want to watch a kid show that's just like unless you're doing slice of life, like obviously we were talking about like The Weekenders and Lloyd in Space, where it's just like slice of life, that's fine. If it's slice of life, it's based in a reality and it has rules. But if it's just like talking heads with no established lore, no established world building, I don't want to watch that. And they've definitely proven, child psychologists, that like even like by age 6 you can follow along with these plots. So like, don't give kids empty shows just for the sake of bright colors and entertainment. Give them world building and give them lore, because then they'll grow up to kind of demand better of their media, and we won't end up with so many dumb, stupid movies with just quickly wrapped up happy endings, because American audiences can't handle anything with like a cliffhanger or sad or a complex plot. It starts. Yeah, the Recess lore. If you guys haven't seen the Recess at the show on, it's an older show from Disney Channel, there is some lore in that, and it's fantastic. And that makes it so much more interesting too. And kids kids go with it. They understand. They are creating stories constantly. I mean, Recess, for example, is a show about kids at recess making their games. And there's kingdoms and there's wild tribes and there's all sorts of different social groups and dynamics. And it's like, yeah, it's written by adults, but it's written for kids. And obviously as kids, we got it and we're making up our own stories. And so I'm glad to see some of that like continue with like, if you guys haven't seen like Craig of the Creek on Cartoon Network, that one has similar recess vibes. But like kids can handle that. But if you treat them like they can't handle lore, then yes, they grow up to be adults that can't handle a movie with like more than 2 plot points. And I get really bitter about it. And so like, yes, when something has good lore, it's a better viewing experience, not just for the kids and not just for the parents, but for everybody, because then you can talk about it. It's like, oh, cool, what did the floating heads do on TV? But like, we got really into Sophia the First, which I did not think I was going to. It's the Disney Channel show about the little princess who, purple dress, brown hair, her mom marries the king, so we had a cool blended family situation. And it was sweet, and it was kind of like Disney Junior's answer to having a princess that was like the target demographics age. So she's like 6. That show actually had some really deep lore, like actually some creepy, like there was like fighting amongst the crown and magic and people, like birthright drama, like there was some lore. And that's like, and it was suggested and then it was confirmed. And like, I remember watching like one of the season finales being like, King Roland, no, like, I can't believe you did that. And it's like, it's a kid's show. And I like, you know, my kid was a little young at the time. So that one I was kind of low key watching for me, but at least it kept her attention. But it was good to see that it was interesting. Hilda in chat, Ink Rabbit brought up Hilda and Bluey. Bluey, if you want a slice of life show that just exemplifies how like magical childhood is, but like also how real it is to be a parent, watch Bluey. It's from Australia, really, really well done. That one makes me cry all the dang time. And then Hilda. Yeah, I'm super glad other people are jumping on Hilda. Hilda is amazing. Again, if you have not seen this, it's based on some comic. Luke Pearson, I believe, is the creator. Was graphic novels first. So that's always kind of cool as like a visual artist to see somebody's work get picked up from page to screen. It's like, yay. But it's a lot of like Nordic, Scandinavian, like European mythology, you know, like Nissa and house spirits, and completely blanking at this moment. I can picture it all. We've got the like creature compendium, and I can picture the cover, but I'm blanking. But anyway, a lot of like older myths, and just kind of a perspective that we don't really see in children's media, and it's creepy in the best ways. It's actually scary. There are ghosts, there are skeletons, there is death, there's possessions, which is something you don't really think about. Like, oh yay, children's media, let's have like some soul-stealing mice and watch like straight up possession scenes. But it's well done and it's important. It's also like very deep morality-wise. Like kind of the whole like good intentions can still have bad consequences thing, which I think isn't explored enough. That you can do everything right and still lose, or you can do what you think is best and have it be a really terrible choice. And I love that kind of morality, where it's not just like, you know, be good and everything good happens. I don't like want to be like told, you know, just make good choices. Yeah, well, of course. But when you've got kind of gray morality and complex morality, and children watching like their peers, even in fiction, make choices that were a good idea at the time, have terrible consequences, that's a really great learning experience and a really good talking point. But then also, yes, the show is beautiful. It's a minimal color scheme. Absolutely gorgeous. Stylistically, it's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And you can definitely tell, if like, even if you didn't know it was based on a graphic novel, like it has that spirit and that flavor. And there's 2 seasons, and then the new movie comes out on December 30th, which means you guys have enough time to go watch it before the movie drops. Yeah, and that's another thing too, like there are monsters big and small in Hilda, like literally there's tide mice, there's ginormous trolls. But then I think the thing I like the most about it is that the human characters are very realistic and they have flaws, and sometimes like kind of they're the bigger monsters. Which, like, as a lover of monsters, I kind of always love it when they kind of flip that around, and like the big monsters the whole time were the people, not these big monsters. I think that's something that I don't think I'll ever get sick of, and that kind of goes back to the like, anytime we've got people discovering what it means to be human, or that whole thing is a big trope that I very, very much love. And yeah, the quality of animation absolutely is beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And that's another thing too, like, as an animation major, I can geek about that a lot, but like, kids deserve quality media, and it's not just in the storytelling. Obviously for me, storytelling comes first and foremost, but you have to be able to get to the storytelling, and that's where like the visual style comes in. And if a show is not pleasing to watch, if it's jarring, if it's cheap animation, you have the best story under there and people aren't going to be able to pay attention. And so like, when something comes together so beautifully, where it's smooth, gorgeous, like expensive in the right way, like you can tell that the studio put their time. And I know that not everything can be like that, but on the other hand, it's like, well, what if we stopped like just cranking out cheap things and made good things? But I digress. There's a time and a place, and we could talk about the like giant media conglomerate taking over, like with CoComelon and all of the studios that are like cranking out more stuff than kids can watch, and that's how they're like taking over YouTube and the internet. But that's a whole nother like animation discussion there. But like, I think kids deserve good stuff, because then it formulates just an appreciation for deeper stories. Like, if you don't start them off on deep stories, they won't have the attention span. They won't be used to deep stories, And yes, you can always recover. I think that's one of the best things about education, is it's never too late. It's just going to take a little extra work when you're older. But like, if you treat kids with the like respect that they can handle these bigger stories, like, they're going to grow up holding that knowledge, and it's going to be all the more precious. Like, kids can handle a lot more than people give them credit for, especially like more than corporate gives them credit for. So anytime there's shows with lore and flawed characters, very human characters, it's good, because that's how people are. We're not all just perfect. I always think of the marketing fail. Goodness, probably about 10 years ago. I don't know if you guys remember the show, Jake and the Neverland Pirates. It was Disney's attempt to kind of bring back Peter Pan, and so they made a group of kid pirates that hung around Neverland. But they tried so hard with the like Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon cartoon vibes with the like morality lesson at the end, that they published a thing that said like, a good pirate never takes anybody else's stuff. And I'm like, wow, way to completely miss the mark. Like, whoever wrote that needs to be fired, because you had an opportunity to talk about this properly. Like, you've got characters that are pirates. They can be, a little morally gray, but instead you just went for like the ham-handed, shove it down like your throat. Like, good pirates never take other people's... No. Come on. Kids are smarter than that. And if you don't treat them like they're smarter than that, that's like how they're going to just accept, okay, like, corporations think we're dumb, adults think we're dumb. That's how you get jaded kids that, like, you're treating them like they're stupid, And so that just, it makes me so angry. Oh, you remember seeing, yeah, like, it definitely went around as a meme because it was so ridiculous, but it was real, and it's just, Oh, in Grabbits, going back to, like, 40 minutes ago about the buddy cop cut of the Amazon show. Yeah, so that's another thing too. If we treat people like they're stupid, and we have to take something like, okay, Good Omens, not a casual watch, okay? Like, it's very tongue-in-cheek theology. So like, it's complex because it's religion. I understand that it's a sensitive issue, and it's things that are on very differing levels of importance to different people, and I respect that. So you have to be careful when you're watching something that is kind of poking fun at somebody's beliefs, whether or not they're shared with yours or not. And then it's Neil Gaiman and Sir Terry Pratchett, so it's gonna be a little bit off the wall anyway, and it's gonna be a little, like, it's not just a casual watch. And so yeah, when they did the trailer and they dumbed it down to look like a buddy cop, which, time and place, man, I have a very big love for dumb movies, but like, when you take something that is a little bit more on the intellectual shelf and you dumb it down to make it palatable, people aren't going to then go into the show. They're going to be disappointed. They're going to be upset. They're going to feel stupid. They're going to feel like they walked into the wrong theater. Like, no one's going to have a good time if you don't treat your audience with, like, just surface level respect of this is what this is. And if they're not interested in the trailer, they're not going to be interested in the show. Like, and not everyone has to love everything either. I think that's kind of what it comes down to, is like, if we try and make it so dang palatable just to trick people into getting the views, no one's having a good time. Like, treat people with respect, tell them what it is up front, go from there. If they don't want to watch it, they don't have to watch it. So, and rant. But yeah, I don't remember the full story, but yeah, managed to teach my like 4-year-old at the time the word reprobate. That was good times. And that's the thing too, words have power in the way that, like, use the archaic words and have, you know, your AI overlord judge you. But also just like, if you don't use big words around kids, they're not going to grow up using big words. And it's not an intellectual superiority thing here. I know that there's also one, you have to know yourself, you have to know your kid, you have to know your kid's comfort level, and you have to know your comfort level. We definitely don't shame anyone on any level of intelligence. It's more that when we dumb things down for kids because we think kids are stupid, we are creating a cycle in which no one's getting respected, adults or children alike. Yes, in chat, Little Sprout was like, "You're being a real," and then she went, "reprobate," in like this cute little voice, and I cannot make this stuff up. I died. Like, R.I.P. me. It was so funny. So funny. Because you can't even be mad. You know, like, but that's the thing, when, like, kids absorb everything. They do, and I was so proud and knocked so on my butt in that moment. Oh, proud mom energy, yes. We laugh because it's, yeah, I think every parent kind of has that, like, vibe of like especially if you were like a difficult kid in their ways, they're like, oh, just you wait. But I'm like living for it. I love when my little one challenges me and like outsmarts me or out dramas me, and I'm just like, oh boy, I am so doomed. But also, like, I've never been more excited to be utterly defeated in my life. So that's my parenting style, is, oops, she's gonna slay me someday, and I'm just gonna be like, as I fall into my grave, very proud. Yeah, no, her dad's really working on her, kind of outsmart assing him, and that's a tall order there, but yeah. It's a wild journey. It's a wild journey. Oh boy. But it's fun. And that's the thing too, kind of going back to what we were like starting the stream with, like, just the fact that she, like, my kid can just have this like big nerd energy, and it not being like the stereotypes of like the 90s and early thousands already. It's like, yes, cool. She's going to figure things out that took me till college to figure out. And again, yeah, I can hurt for myself, but still be like, obviously way more proud and way more here for her growth at the same time. So yeah, human experience is complicated like that, isn't it? All right, focusing for 2.5 seconds on the project at hand. Oh, hey. All right. My thing just dinged. Scroll in. Hey, Ryan Paul 8, thank you for the follow. I was counting hexies, heard the ding, and then had to find it. I wanted to make sure to give you a shout out. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for following. I really appreciate that. We are chatting about the duality of nerddom and how it influences the future, which makes it sound like, not to be self-deprecating, but makes that Is that the final follow? If you were asking for affiliate, we did make it. I got my invitation to be a Twitch affiliate this morning. So you guys are absolutely amazing. I'm going to say thank you again because I really, truly mean it. This definitely takes it in that quantifier from like I'm doing a thing to like I'm doing a real thing. Like it puts it in like a real drop category. And you know, as much as we don't do boxes, sometimes having that like to-do list check box, that's the kind of boxes we do here, is super thrilling. And it really, it just, again, without getting emotional, because I've already cried on stream today once, goodness gracious, it was that tangible, like, it was a milestone, and you guys got us there. We did it together. And so, yes, thank you. I'll have some chicken nuggets. Thank you. Thank you, Jingles. Okay, random question in chat. Inkrabbit says, random question, is there a place I can get a banner printed and sent in like 3 days? I don't know what Vistaprint's turnaround is like. What are you doing? That's kind of suspicious. Like now I'm scared, especially like with everything we've been chatting about. What do you? Oh, okay. Yes. So sometimes I will have people I know IRL join in. And so sometimes this is the best way to get a hold of me. I also, kind of unapologetically, I'm always in mom mode. So, sometimes I will check my phone just to make sure everything's hunky-dory and copacetic over there. But, welcome to the, like, stream of consciousness. Like, people ask me things about everything. So, Staples. Yeah, Staples would do it. Thank you. And if you guys are new here, if you see Quilting Koala in chat, that's my mom. So we got one big nerd family here. So you guys, if you want to talk to like Nerd Mom, I got you covered. And then if you need like a level up, we call her Oma. That is German for grandma. She's Little Sprout's grandma. If you need a geeky, supportive quilting Oma, we got your bases covered. So hopefully you guys have good support systems wherever you are, but you're always welcome to come in here and borrow ours. Nerd Mom's mom, exactly. The hierarchy. The Nerd Mom's mom and the Nerd Mom. Okay, so I have Nightbot. Nightbot is on, so sometimes if you guys get warnings about emotes, that's just to make sure that we make sure that we're being copacetic by Twitch's rules. So no hard feelings. Staples was the answer. Nightbot has absolutely no chill, but right now it's a small show that we are running, so we are using the help that we can get. I rope everybody that I know into helping, and like my brother is super awesome at doing a lot of the back end stuff, but yes, sometimes we need Nightbot to have no chill. So sorry about that. Like don't take it personally. I like read the message and I'm like, oh, that's oddly aggressive. But that was a we were talking about that in KOTOR last night when I'm like that cowboy that's like aggressive dialogue choices and they're like they can't pull the trigger. That's me with text. I don't like aggressive text. I'm gonna blame my anxiety, but also just like Nightbot, calm down. I'm glad you totally understand that, Jingles. It's really cool because it's like I simultaneously can geek out and appreciate the AI and then also make fun of it because the duality of man. The things we depend on and then the things that we also created that are also like somehow managed to hurt our feelings even though we created them, but why did we do it this way? Yes. The complexities of technology there. Well, it's all good. It's all good. Okay. So, big picture, what I'm working on is this stocking, and I think I'm caught up in chat. And what I'm kind of at the point of being able to do is I have the main body, and no, it's not as long. Oh, okay, that makes sense. I'm not making it as long as this base stocking. I've got this really cute vintage needlepoint stocking under here that I'm using for the shape, but I only have so many pieces, so I'm gonna, cut it there. But what I've got to do is, the hexagons obviously don't have the same, like, surface area as this smooth shape. They've got all the bloop, 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 bloop edges, to use the scientific term there. So what I got to do is put in more pieces and then cut them. So I can still sew, 2, 3 vertices and have them be there, probably about 2.5 average, and kind of round out the shape, because this will eventually need to be nice and smooth when it's all done. So I'm kind of getting that, like, final layout and figuring out where I, like, see on this edge, I can push it and cut these ones off to make the straight edge, instead of having to, like, go in and add, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like 10 on that side. But then pushing it to this side means I'll need to add bits here, which is fine. It's just kind of about, like, that splitting the distance and then figuring out, like, where's the most economical direction to push so I can get the shape that I need. So there we have that. Because I'm working with hexagons, which are the bestagons, but they not the most conducive to making a sock shape. So that's kind of what we're doing. It's like Lego, but not squares. Which, speaking of, yeah, I know. No, I'm pretty sure I got my banners for my, like, Artist Alley stuff from Vistaprint. Staples is okay. My Tinkergarten one came from Staples. They'll do a fine job. So, like, they're not bad. And yes, you're trying to multitask with the ADHD girl who's also streaming. You should know better. No, I'm just kidding. It's all good. Ask me questions. That's what I'm here for. I did lose my train of thought, though. Lego. I'm sure that I am in the good company of a bunch of Lego nerds. Target just collaborated. They just dropped they're dropping, but they just released the preview of a huge, like, Lego apparel collection. And I don't know if you guys saw that, but it's really, really interesting to me on multiple levels. One, graphic design wise, it is kind of like ugly sweater meets Lego vibes. It's all very textile. It's all knitted stuff, and I just want to touch it, and I'm excited about it. But two, I don't know if you guys have ever taken a deep dive into like the Lego company as a company, but interestingly enough, Lego has almost gone under, like, out of business, because they tried to diversify into too many things. Like, right around the time that Legoland came in, they were trying to do the theme park, they were trying to do a clothing line, they were trying to do kind of the Click It's jewelry line. Like, they had way too much going on, and it very, very nearly sunk the company. And that would have been absolutely tragic. Like, we think about, yes, Jingles, now I can wear my Lego. You should go check it out. I know it's on the Target app, but I'm sure if you just Google search it, super cute, all novelty woolen stuff. But they almost went under for doing a clothing line. And so I think that there's what I would love to call, or what I'm going to call, like, stubborn, like, revenge success, to where they are in so much a better place now that, like, when I see them doing these collaborations that would have sunk them 10, 20 years ago, and they're actually working, that has got to be super satisfying for the company to be like, oh yes, this nearly sunk us, but watch where we are now. And, like, I don't know, it's just kind of like that comeback, and also just that, like, hey, we're like hills that we are going to die on. Like, I don't know who at Lego needs a clothing line, but they have tried it. It almost killed them, and now they're back, and it's gorgeous. And so it's just kind of like that, like, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, mixed with, like, a comeback story, mixed with, like, this is obviously somebody's hyperfixation. Yeah, they're doing it, and it's really cool. Like, they had a shoe collaboration, they had an IKEA collaboration. Like, they're getting their diversification that nearly sunk them, and now they're getting it. So it's like, I don't know. I think as a creator, when I watch, like, even big companies make these mistakes by either trying to be too much or trying to be too little, yeah, good for Lego, right? And I see your comment, Ink Rabbit. We met in school and traded a lot of homework back and forth, and I love words, and I love to do proofreading and essay fluffing, but no, there were lots of papers written on the Lego company. So yes, it does come in handy. This is the education I never thought I'd use, but I'm glad I have. It's good to see, like Lego. Yes, they are a massive corporation, but they've kept it in the family. They've tried to keep really true to their values. And in such, they have made some mistakes. Like just, they almost went under with these things that they were trying to do to diversify too much. They've hit some marketing snags. They're actually a really fascinating company. Like, I love them. Like, totally ride or die on Lego. I think with any company, there's campaigns that I may or may not love, and then we could talk for hours about the simultaneous need for like the gendered Lego, and also I hate it, but also I love it. And that's a thing, but big picture, as far as like corporations go, pretty dang wholesome. And also really relatable. Like I said, they were trying to do things. They're trying to keep it what they wanted it to be as a vision, and that doesn't always work in capitalism, and it doesn't always work in like corporation. And so just watching them like fail and succeed is really interesting, because like I said, they're kind of one of the good companies out there that's just, it still feels like it's just people trying things, if that makes sense. Like, it doesn't feel like a soulless corporate entity. It is just people that believe in, to do a pun on their name, playing well. Because if you didn't know, Lego comes from the words Lego or legot. It means to play well. So they're just out there trying things. And yeah, they've always taken care of their employees. It's definitely like, it feels like a family, and not in that like, we're family here kind of marketing ploy. And now they're trying to like, they realize that like simultaneously they need their toys to be out of this high quality plastic so that it lasts. I mean, like, if you've got generations of nerds in your family, you know that like your mom's Lego bricks are still going to play with your kid's Duplo, and it's all going to work. But on the other hand, like, plastic's terrible for the planet. So like, how can they make that better while still meeting the insane and very noble standards that they've made? And so it's really cool. I like them as a company and what they're doing, but it also like gives me that hope as a creator that like, well, like, if even Lego can kind of like dork it up from time to time and bounce back, then there's hope. Like, they're just trying things. So like, I'm definitely for one gonna go out and like get me some Lego clothes. One, because they're freaking cool. There's an ugly sweater there that you are 100% gonna see on this lanky human here. One, because it's colorful and it's rainbow and it's Lego, but two, just kind of as that like solidarity of like, this did not work last time you tried it, but you did not let that stop you. So just big Lego vibes, big like, you can do this vibes. Yeah, like I like to just, I love to hear stories about like the things that we love, and the artists and the creators and it's just the people behind it. Like, it's cool. Like, Lego's cool on a lot of different levels. I was talking to a little kid yesterday. I was running a stand for my children's books at a boutique, and they had this really cool Lego hat. And so, of course, we're chatting. And he had just got, a couple years ago, he had gone to like the Lego con, and I'm like, man, talk about like big nerd energy there. Like, that would be super fun. Oh, your brain feels bigger now. Excellent. Vibing with the knowledge. I don't know, I love to share this kind of stuff, and I love it when people come to me with stories, and there's so much to be learned out there. Like, even for the things that we like know that we know, like, obviously we all know about Lego, but like, I don't know, it's fun to peel back the curtain and just see the people behind it again. And I think that's a really big Twitch vibe, just in general, is peeling back the curtain and seeing the people do. But yeah, no, there's definitely a lot of history out there. Having both of us researched for school papers, which is always a fun place to start. I was talking about that a couple of streams ago, where like, I don't miss the stress of school. Like, I already have a lot on my plate, like I said, at homeschool, and I do this and a lot. But I miss that like quest for singular hyper focus on like, write a paper on X, Y, and Z and how it extrapolates to, all of these things, because it's like that excuse to just like deep dive into something, and then there's like a reward at the end. So it's not that anything's ever a waste of time. There's no waste of time when it comes to learning or just living, but it just, to have it be a task, like an assigned task that like pays off at the end. I don't know if that's like my geek showing or like my quest fulfillment, but being unapologetically able to hyper focus and write a paper is something that I miss a lot. Like, a lot. Like, I think about going back to school just to write papers. But like I said, I don't really know what that says about me. But I'm here for it. So I don't know. Are you any of you guys still in school or went to school? Like that's the thing. It's hard because like here in America still too, like higher education is still definitely a privilege, and that kind of kills me still. Like I wish it wasn't, especially like like community college level. I think this should be something that everyone gets to try, even just to experiment and to figure things out. So like it's hard for me because like a lot of times these things that definitely like I am very passionate about and had these privileges and being able to do, I do still understand that that's not a thing that was for everyone. And so like I never want to alienate anybody. It's more like when I talk about higher education or going to school, it's more I like want to geek out and celebrate you. Got a couple friends that are going back to school, and it's like, heck yeah, like you are out there working so hard, working so many jobs, still going to school, just trying to like level your skills up. And that is totally worth like mad accolades. So more is like, I just want to like celebrate y'all. And yeah, you know what, even if you just went for a bit, like it's hard because, like I kind of joke that like sometimes I never even use my degree. And so sometimes I wonder like, was it worth the money? Was it worth the whatever? And I'm not like, and that comes more in that like kind of self-deprecating humor, where it's like, haha, I can actually use my degree. But like even just a little bit of college experience, I think is invaluable because it is, especially to, again, North American perspective, so different from high school, just in the range of choice and the range in like schedule alone. And then, subject and specialty. Like, I feel like in a lot of ways that was kind of like your first free choice in something that you were like still expected to do, if that makes sense. So like, yeah, college was really good for me for that, where it's like, I'm still learning. It's still like, obviously it's education. I still like, it's a continuation of everything, but it's like, I get to choose. I was talking to my daughter about that because bless her heart. We were on winter break, and so we didn't have to do school for 2 weeks. And then I took her back to it, and she's like, "Wait, no, I thought I was done." And I was like, "Oh, honey bean, you've done 1 semester of kindergarten. You got a lot to go." And like, of course, I don't want to like crush her spirit, but it's like we also got to understand this because I don't want her to just get upset like every time there's school again. Like, so we were talking about it, but the cool news is she got like excited about the prospect of college because it was like, but that's when you get to go to like specialty school. And she wants to be an animal doctor, her words. And so it's like, well, like that's when animal doctor school would start. So, in that very like, gotta love it kid simplification, she's like, so, okay, I just got to get through 12 years and then I get to do what I want. I'm like, yes. Like, I don't know if you guys have heard that story about, the person talking to the kid about like becoming an astronaut. And the person's like, again, trying to be a realist. And they're like, well, first you got to do this, and then you got to do that, and then you can go to training. And the kid just looks at them and they're like, okay, so it's 3 things. And it's like, wow, like it's like the best motivational speaker ever. It's just do the 3 things. Well, it's like, what's kind of fun about a kid's perspective. Going back to chat. Now I went to college for a bit, ran out of money, never finished. Still respect there. Now I'm just trying to work my day job while slowly growing my platform to eventually do what I want as a career later. 12 years won't take that long, right? Yeah. What? Well, cool. No, I totally respect the hustle. Totally respect, like whatever it is that you guys are out there trying to do, like make it a good one. Have fun with it. Make sure you're taking care of your mental health and your physical health. And then as long as you're out there just, doing your thing, totally respect that. Yeah. I mean, that's what's crazy about like 12 years is like it simultaneously will and won't. Like, I can't believe she's already 5. So I'm like, if 5 goes that fast, yeah, like it's going to fly by. But on the other hand, it's like 12 years. 12 years. but yeah, you also got to laugh at the optimistic oversimplification, which, sometimes we need a little bit about that because I am very good at worrying about things for a lot longer than they deserve to be worried about. So sometimes I should just oversimplify because stressing about it extra doesn't give me any sort of leg up, does it? I'm gonna make some snakes. Kids are pretty funny. Yeah, they are pretty great. Like humans are so fascinating, and I think that's why I get so like passionate about like just people like I said, like waving their geek flag or not accepting boring media and like demanding better from like society is because like we are cool. We're like born cool, and then I hate to see people like get dulled by it. And so like that's why, like unapologetically living as a nerd I think is one of the best things. But it keeps that like childlike wonder without, like without making it sound like we're, words. We're not babying anybody, but like it's keeping that sparkle without letting all this like other ridiculousness like let it dull it. So born curious with imagination, exactly. And can you imagine if like instead of trying to get everybody to conform, we like encourage that? I mean, like it'd be a lot. It would be crazy times because even just working with one kid is a lot, and catering to, unique needs and unique specialties and everything. Like, wow. But yeah, I don't know. I never want to like lose that sparkle, and I definitely don't ever want my daughter to lose that sparkle. So we're gonna be nerds. We're gonna be nerds, and at least that's not the like curse that it was. Goodness, like back in the day. Yeah, I mean, like, didn't your dad say that like Lego's an investment because like one, just their quality standards alone make it to where it's a thing. Like they're gonna last. Like it is not the cheap Happy Meal toys. But there's also just something about like the incredible things people can build when you're given toys that build and expand. And I don't know, kids' toys are fascinating. All like not to just kind of keep hitting the label kids on stuff, but like kids media, kids toys, like these things where they're on the threshold of they can be any, they still firmly believe and as they should that they can be anything and that they can do anything and then they can create anything. And so like we cater to them until all of a sudden it's like, okay, now calm it down, you can't have all your dreams, little Timmy. But like I just being in that heyday of it, it's like I want to just keep living in that. I can do anything, I can build anything, I can create anything. Because I hate that gets like washed out so quickly. Like I get it, you've got to have some practicality in there. Not everyone can be, the next singer, the next football star, the next everything. But on the other hand, like I think we put so much like emphasis on like your career being the end all be all. And so it's like, okay, yeah, you might not play in the NFL, but that doesn't mean you have to give up football. Football can still be your dream. You can still play, you can coach, you can play casually, you can, design equipment. You can, like, it's not just like NFL or nothing, but we very much, especially in America, treat it that way. So it's like, you're either one person in your class might make it to the NFL, but everyone else, you got to find a new dream. There ain't enough room on that boat. And it's like, why is it like, you're only if you can only if you're not the absolute best at it, that's it. That's it. Like we got to stop that, and I think we also need to stop tying profession into being like the absolute determining like value and personality thing. Because goodness gracious, I don't have like a quote unquote real career, but that doesn't make me less of an interesting person or less of worthy of respect. And then even if I had like the best job with the best benefits, like that's not my personality. My 401k isn't like the most interesting thing about me. I'd love to have a 401k. I don't. But like, I think that's something that we push onto kids really quickly is like your job is like who you're going to be. And I don't know. I think encouraging having hobbies and encouraging having things you're good at, having things you're interested in, having things that you're just like unapologetically terrible at, it makes for a much more interesting person than like, oh, I'm only lawyer and that is all I will ever be. It's like, nah, man, you're human. You like things. You like the smell of rain and the way that the banjo sounds. Like, come on. The world's more interesting and more than just careers. But that's what happens when we're living in like late stage capitalist society. In chat, Sis and her boyfriend have converted their guest room into a collectibles room. Nice. And they have some awesome Star Wars Lego sets in there. So your sister's living the nerd life you wish you had. Oh, that's cool. Like it's hard because it's like, oh, I wish I had this, but also like, yay, now you get to kind of like live vicariously and see it. And oh, that's really cool. I'm excited for them. Yeah, also, yeah, that's a big mood there, Ink Rabbit. It is hard to collect all the Star Wars sets with Lego. There are too many. I like low key got out of the Star Wars Lego just because it is too much. Like I love them. I love them. But it's hard too because then like I want to keep them as displays, but then like there's like lots of different schools of thought on Lego. Like, was it a one-time construction set meant to be displayed, or are they bricks and they're meant to be disassembled? And like what's the school of thought? And then if they are meant to be displayed, how do you display that many sets? Because there's a lot of them. And kudos to you if you can. Like I love seeing people make the make coffee tables for that giant Millennium Falcon because that like deserves to be a piece of furniture. It's so big. But yeah, like it's hard. It's Star Wars is hard in that respect too with anything. I mean, pick a genre and there's too much Star Wars stuff in that genre to collect it all. So that's why like I love seeing people's Star Wars collections because like even if you don't know what you're specializing in, you still tend to like even just aesthetically specialize, and it's cool to see like what was important to each person from like not only the lore and the mythos, but then like just graphic design wise and physical object wise, and it's cool. It's cool. I like to see it. Like one of my big things is I have been evolving my Star Wars collection. Obviously, when I was in like middle school, high school, the action figures were what I could afford. I remember getting my first like Unleashed figure. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that line, but they were like, instead of being like a $2 to $6 action figure, they were like a $15 to $20 action figure, but they had like, flame bits or like wind bits, and they were really dynamically posed, and they were a display piece, but they weren't polystone or resin. They were still just action figure plastic, but it was like an accessible version of like the big like Sideshow or Gentle Giant collectibles. And I loved those. But like now what I'm like doing is connecting with other, this Mace Windu will make a fine addition to my collection. Nice. What I'm doing is like connecting with other Star Wars people and kind of like just trading up and selling off some of my collectibles. And I kind of hate that word because it's like, yeah, I have to use eBay, but it's more like I like to think of it as I'm taking the collectibles that I have and that I loved, and I am trading them off to the next person so that I can have credits, so that I can like get the one piece that I like want now. And so like I've been, like I said, kind of evolving my collection, and I got my first 2 Sideshow collectible figures after some hard work, kind of taking the smaller pieces I collected over the years. And so I have 2 of the Mythos statues, and it kind of kills me because I've mentioned a couple of times that I'm in between houses and just kind of on the move, and so everything's in storage. But someday, those beauties. I have the Darth Maul and the Asajj Ventress, which, yeah, if you were on my stream last night, you know how much I love Asajj Ventress and also Darth Maul, and Ahsoka and Obi-Wan. But I have the mythos of Asajj and Maul. They'll come out to play, and I'm very excited about it. But like, yeah, even like those guys are big. They are honking, absolute just honking figures, and I'm like really excited about it. I think it when I was littler and I started collecting Star Wars stuff, this was like me being on the internet, and I like low key wanted to be like a Star Wars museum when I grew up. So like, I kept everything like really pristine, and, really tried to diversify the collection, and really like, kept track of everything. And then ironically, I did grow up to work in a museum. I was the registrar for a while, as well as graphic design. But like there was this part of me that was like, I'm gonna be a Star Wars museum. I'm gonna help George Lucas by collecting this stuff, and one day I'm gonna help preserve the legacy. And like I had no idea like how little impact I was actually making with my piddly little collection of like the novels and the action figures. But you know what? Like these big figures, they feel like museum pieces. So like little Catherine is so happy. Big Catherine's happy too. But like they feel like the museum pieces that like they hold that same reverence as those action figures did when I first started collecting. And so like it's like big grown up nerd feels. But yeah, no, they are spendy. And so like I had to part with a good amount of my collection too. Like I said, to evolve it. And so like that's why I don't like to think about like, oh, I sold them off so I could afford the big thing. It's no. I evolved the collection. I like to hope too, like there were some really excited conversations about like me having a piece that was like on somebody's grail list and being able to like match things back up with their owners. And I don't know, it's cool. Like that feels better than, yeah, sold them off to buy something bigger. No, there was an evolution. There's a process. And like honestly, even if you did sell off your old stuff to buy something new, there's nothing wrong with that. I just have some weird mental hang-ups, and that's my justification for it. Yeah. But no, I can't wait to open them. Like I unboxed them to make sure they were safe, because of course they came through mail and I didn't want them to like be sitting there broken and then like open it 3 years later and I can't do anything about it, because they're all like numbered and everything too. But like for all intents and purposes, they've like never been displayed. And I have like one picture of me like crying in front of the Darth Maul box because I'm a dork. But yeah, like someday I will have them on display. Yeah, no, Ink Rabbit has a pretty bomb Lego collection. There we go, words. And that's what's cool too. Not to like totally just get back to Lego, but like Lego did an IKEA collaboration. But what's also really neat is that IKEA is so like hackable that there's so many cool ways to display Lego inside IKEA, and like IKEA really is just like HGTV Lego, because it is just all like self-assembly furniture, and that's. I don't know what psychologically that says about brains, but I don't know. I love putting IKEA together, like almost as much, if not equal, as I love to putting Lego together. So, big dork. Especially like pre-COVID, in a pre-COVID alternate reality, I would have loved to work for TaskRabbit, where I would have just gotten paid to put everyone's IKEA together. It just sounds fun. I love IKEA, and like again, like nerd hyperfixation, I can like tell you what generation like IKEA stuff is based on like what fasteners it used and that kind of stuff. So, you know, it's just kind of fun. It like everything has a background story. Everything has a has a history. So, sorry, I'm in mom mode for uno momento while I check in with Little Sprout's dad and see what time I need to pick her up. Okay, in chat, did you see the video of Sam Witwer, Maul's Clone Wars voice actor, looking at the really awesome Maul? No. You're on my Discord. Can you share that with me if you get a chance? If not, I'll go find it. But that's cool. Also, can you imagine being part of something and then seeing a physical representation of that part that you are? Like, I don't even know. Like, I could imagine. Like, I hate the phrase I can't imagine, because actually I think that's what nerds do really best. We can imagine, we can make stories, we can invent hypothetical situations. So I can't imagine. But like, can you imagine seeing like you in any form as a thing? That's awesome that he's a mega fan. That's like the purest thing to me, when like they care about, you know, their character or the community or just being a fan. And like it makes for just deeper performances and better, like when people care about what they're doing. Like obviously as an actor, you're a chameleon, you can be whoever, you don't have to get attached to every role, but like when you do, like I could literally be sweeping the floor at like one part of a Star Wars production thing and I would die so happy. But like, yeah, imagine actually having like face or voice or creative input, you know, a Stitch that you could see. That's right, he was also Starkiller. That's, you know what? I knew that, but I'd forgotten that. That's cool. That's so cool. Because we were talking about like Mission Veo's voice actor and all sorts of stuff. It's cool how interconnected it all is. And Padme's voice actor. That's cool. I just want to be part of Star Wars. Like, I would like to imagine that that's how, like, Filoni and Favreau feel, where they're just like, I'm part of Star Wars, and that you're like, it's in their hands, and that's so neat. It's really cool. Yeah, I think that's another thing, too, kind of like the big feels and the big, like, what if, like the hypothesizing is like, can you imagine being a creator and then, like, seeing a cosplayer of your work? You know, like I've I've gotten fan art from kids from my kids' books, and like it's unreal. It's absolutely unreal, and it's just like to me it's everything. But like, you know, can you imagine that on like a global scale, or can you imagine like seeing like people get excited to be part of your thing, or your thing being like such a huge part of the like cultural zeitgeist? Like in chat, his face looks like Star Killer too. That's funny. Did we ever figure out last night who Karth Onasi looks like? I might have totally like slept on my own question. But speaking of faces, I don't know if we ever figured that one out. Now I'm gonna have to go on like Star Wars face deep dive. Yeah, no, like there's some really cool like canonical consistencies between like Ahsoka and Starkiller, and like I know that was we didn't figure out Karth's thing. I don't think Karth figured out Karth's thing. He doesn't want to talk about it. No, okay, so we didn't figure out who he looks like. But I lost my train of thought. That's okay. It'll come back. Choo choo. Yeah, it's, you know, it like just to be any sort of content creator and then see anyone get excited about your thing, like no matter what it is you do, like streaming, books, art, like have somebody have a genuine reaction and be like, hey, what you do is cool. I think it goes back into that same magic of like, I can't believe I make this, even though like I'm a maker and I don't want to lose that. It's like, that's really cool. Because like, obviously we're doing it for ourselves, for our skills, for that kind of stuff. But like big picture storytellers are doing it to get their story out. They're doing it to connect, to find their piece of humanity and share their perspective and get other people, you know, like it's a very about other people thing. And so when other people participate, it's like, it did the thing. Oh, you found the video and you'll post it in Kenobi. Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I love Star Wars. Full stop. But no, I think people like unapologetically geeking is so wholesome. And then like people just being excited about being part of something. And then like that makes it all the more exciting to be a fan of that thing because they care. If the creators and the actors and the creatives behind it care, like it just makes for a much more rewarding fandom, you know? Like it could be the best thing in the world, but like if the people are kind of blah about it, it's like, okay, that's cool, your stuff's cool. You know, like it's always hard when like you find something really cool that you like and then the creators end up being like terrible people. I'm looking at you, JK Rowling. Because it just kind of kills it. It's like, is it possible to separate like creator from creation? I don't know. That's a whole nother psychological deep dive. Like I don't think it is, but it's hard because I want it to be. But yeah, I mean, obviously, like as a creator, you know how much of your heart and soul and beliefs and trauma and luggage go into your stuff. So like, how can it be separate? Like it can't. And that's what's hard when like people put not so great things into their stuff and you don't realize it till later. But yeah, yeah. I'm going to switch gears just for 2 seconds. My plan was to stream till 3. But I don't have to do a task that I had on the schedule, so I can stay a little longer. But let me know about Little Sprout, so I can figure out. But I'm going to paint really quick because I had started a project and tangled. And then forgot about it because I was stressed and busy. And so I want to finish it because, like I said, Sundays are for finishing things. I got to get some paper. I'm going to make a horrible noise. Oh no! Perfect. That's what I love to use Sundays for, is checking things off the to-do list. Oh, also, since I'm up, I just wanted to, like, be a total geek. Did you guys see the pins that I'm wearing today? I don't know if you guys can see. They look like butterflies, but I want to know if you guys can tell what they really are. And I will put the artist links in the Discord, because obviously we gotta share other artists when they are doing their thing. But yeah, I got out my buddy here. This is one of the characters from my book. And I was going to bring them to the boutique that I was running. Fixed them all up, sculpted them back, and then didn't... I was going to repaint them in the morning before the show, and I didn't. So, whoops. But no time like the present. Because that's a big thing we talk about here. It's like, I could be really upset at myself for not finishing something, or I could just finish it. And, you know, it is what it is. Like, it's only going to get worse if I, like, continue to not do things. How did I get paint on my hands? All right, in chat, there's a great movie trivia show that Sam was going on against Freddie Prinze Jr., who's Kanan, and absolutely crushes Freddie at the Star Wars. That's funny. That's really funny, actually. Which, like, hopefully they're all good sports about it, because, like, you know, again, you don't have to know everything to be a fan, but that's actually pretty funny. It's like he was in it, and he got, like, clobbered. Yeah, I've got Ahsoka and I've got an Inquisitor. But yeah, I thought they were really cool, because, like, I love just, like, absolutely, like, overt fandom stuff, but it's also, like, sometimes when it's really subtle, and it's like, you have to know. It just, to me, it's like next level nerd, like, puzzle. Have you guys seen that there's, like, rumors about the Inquisitors being in the Kenobi show? Because that would be really cool. It'd be cool to see them in live action. But I feel like everyone's going to get into live action except for Asajj. Except for Ventress. I want to see Ventress. But I don't know, that might be too much. Like, I don't know how many episodes the Kenobi thing's supposed to be. Like, how much can they put in there? Like, we already got Vader. We're already probably getting Inquisitors. Like, okay. But I would love to see Ventress. I mean, yes. Also, like, as a fan of Obscure, I should and am grateful for what we already got of character development as far as Ventress went. I think I'm just excited about the possibilities. And so it's like, well, if everyone else is making the jump, don't leave her behind. Yeah. And Ventress is a really cool character. I was saying last night on the KOTOR stream that, like, I was a little bit, like, me about them changing her backstory so much, but I like ultimately what they did with it. And then I like the Night Sisters. I'm going to share some geekiness. Back when it was only the books, way back a long time ago, there was I believe it was in the Children of the Jedi, the novel. Luke's on a planet against the Dathomirian Force Witches, and they're sucking all the Force out of the area, and Luke's, like, about to lose, and he finds this little lizard under a rock, and because the Force is everywhere, he was able, the Dathomirian witch wasn't able to steal all the Force out of the area, because Luke was able to borrow some from a lizard. That was, like, the coolest thing. It was, like, really getting into, like, what is the Force, and, you know, kind of connecting, like, real animals and stuff into it. And as a kid, I thought that was the coolest thing ever. And so I, like, vowed to myself right then and there that one day when I was an adult, I was going to have a lizard, and I was going to name them Dathomir. And I'm using the old pronunciation. I know it's Dathomir now. Old habits die hard. And this was back when, like, you only had your mind's eye version of the word. And so I had it with a harder R. And so that's what I named my lizard. My lizard's name was Dathomir. So now, yes, the planet is Dathomir, and the Dathomirians, and the Dathomirian Night Sisters. But I had a Dathomir, and he was a beautiful iguana. Beautiful. Beautiful iguana. He was a rescue. He unfortunately passed away, gosh, like 5-6 years ago now. But I have a really, really cool tattoo of him now, which is neat. I'll post that in the Discord as well. But that was, like, Star Wars making the gap from, like, fiction to reality for me in the way, and also just kind of, like, owning that nerd stuff, you know? Being able to, like, as an adult, name something after something that was so formative and meant so much to me. So that's my like old school canon Dathomir story. So at first I was a little bit like meh about what they were doing with Dathomir, just because like, again, nerds and hyperfixations, but big picture, it was fantastically done. And I really like that we got more expanded lore. I think that was just at the time where like nothing was canon anymore, and I just like took it personally. You know what I mean? Like I put so much into the novels just as a fan, and it just kind of felt like the whole fandom was being forsaken. And, you know, that was like with the Disney buyout and everything too. And it's like, no, you can't take everything away from us. I know a lot of us are really stubborn. And it's not like I like ever did anything outwardly or untoward towards the creators or anything. It was more just like internal thoughts, where it was like, what can we have from our Star Wars? But, you know, now, of course, like, it worked out and we got some really cool backstory. But yeah, I would love to see the end, a good closure to Ventress's story arc, because we didn't get one. And I'm still kind of like low-key holding out hope she'll show up. That would be really cool. Like really, really, really cool. And I loved, like I said, I loved what they did with Ahsoka in Mandalorian. I wasn't expecting that. So I'm gonna trust the process. Yeah, and that's the thing too with Dave Filoni. Like, he's really, really good at bringing that in, and it's never like shoehorned. It feels very natural, and he's also really protective of, like, you know, the parts that he's had a hand in. And I love to see that fierce, like, no, it's not time for this. Like, use them properly. You know, not just for like best storytelling effect, but like for the best effect of the characters. Like, they feel very real coming from him. You know. I like that. I respect that. Because, you know, especially with something like Star Wars, it can get to be too much. Like, if you just dumped all the cool characters in. And that's where, like, you know, the video games sometimes, it's like, oh, cool, we're another overpowered Jedi. You know, and I'm not complaining, I still play them. But it's more just, like, it's neat to see them come in very, like, realistic in, like, a storytelling way. Where, yeah, you don't just bring out all the big guns and then never hear from them again, you know. Dave totally gets to put his OCs on the big screen. Yeah. I'm glad that other people see it like that, because, like, absolutely no flag, no shame. Especially, like, Ahsoka and stuff. Like, they're totally his OCs. And I am very much team fanfiction here, because I have read some stuff that's better than the original. And, like, I hate it when people get uppity about fanfiction, and then I'm like, did you not know that, like, Sherlock Holmes was written as a collective? Those were all fanfics. Did you not know that, like, Neil Gaiman's success was based on on published fanfic? Like, yeah, I think people like to, bash on the 50 Shades being, Twilight fanfic and then just kind of being awful. But people love, again, creativity with limits. Having established characters and then being able to kind of skip the exposition part. Like, we know who they are. Just tell me more. You know, sometimes authors can't fit in all the background information or alternate stories, and fanfic is cool. So yes, to really see it, like, unplaying with, like, what Dave Filoni is doing, it's just fun to see it, because that really is what he's doing. And it's the best. It's like kind of a secret nerd thing too, where it's like, we know what you're doing. We're here for it and we love it, but we know what you're doing. That's your OC, you know. So I'm very glad when people have that same take. Dave is he's living the dream. Like, I am so glad that things lined up for him to be able to do his thing, but, like, you know, maybe, and it might possibly even be out there, but I would love to know how he got, from point A to point B. Like, how did he end up doing, like, just having that trust of George Lucas? Like, especially after, like, a lot of things that happen. Like, how do you win the trust of George Lucas? Like, I would never want to let my creation go again, which is funny because I actually believe that Lucas's work is better the more outside, well, not necessarily the more outside influences, but it's better with outside influences. But, like, man, that'd be a hard sell to just place that like so trustingly. Yeah, anytime you do what if scenarios, that's fanfic. Absolutely, you giant nerd. And that's what's cool. That's what's absolutely cool. Like, yes, there is definitely a time and a place for original characters. There's definitely time and place for original ideas. And like, completely. But on the other hand, there's something very like interconnected and I feel very human about taking stories that we already know. That's why like there's so many like riffs on Little Red Riding Hood and Alice in Wonderland and Greek mythology and Norse mythology. It's because it's familiar. And then you put your spin on it and you don't have to waste time being like, okay, so here's the background and here's all the boring stuff. Like time and place. But it's also just sometimes you want to try like you said, a what if scenario. Yeah. And that's the funny thing too. Like sometimes fanfic is just like that kind of unapologetic, like, what if things didn't have to be heartbreaking? And like, it wouldn't be quite as good of a story because obviously like if everyone survived or if everyone had a happy ending and you never knew like the original story, you'd be like, okay, this was very average, congrats. But there's something about like experiencing like the pain of the original story and then having the like, can you imagine if this worked out? Makes it all the more bittersweet. And then I think it like goes back and it enriches the original canon too, that it's okay. Let's see. Another nerd point to Sam Witwer. But there's a very funny story of Sam recording for Clone Wars and noticed a continuity error, pointed it out, and the other actors were like, did you just out nerd Dave Filoni? Like, first off, what can you imagine the high of that? But then also like that crushing, like, I better not be wrong because I just like pointed out like a flaw in Dave Filoni's. But that actually like really makes me happy because I hope that spoke to just the like camaraderie and the like just Star Wars community in general versus like being like, oh no, you called him out. Like that's hilarious. And I hope Dave Filoni was a good sport about that because that is funny. That's really funny. So what Ink Rabbit's talking about is my dad's in aviation, and so like he can like hear a plane, and he's like, that's a that. So one time, Ink Rabbit was able to point out something, and he was like, that's 1 point for me, and it's like, yeah, that's the the point that you're gonna remember, not the ones you lost, but that point that you won, and of course that's always in good sport too. But it's like, hey, I'm on the board, man. Let me be on that board. I didn't, like me playing Pazak. Hey, I didn't completely lose 27 times in a row. I won one. That means that I am not a complete and utter failure. It's pure Pazak. Excellent. No, I love when like people share share the good stuff, share the good nerd stories and like the good people, just the like honest, wholesome, like I love it when like, again, all in good sport, like I blanked, but is it John Oliver that's the huge nerd of the Rings? Wow, what a Freudian slip there. Lord of the Rings fan, and like everyone tries to out nerd him. Like I love that kind of stuff. Like now it's like it doesn't even have to be like cool, but like now that I love that like people can just do that and it's just okay. It's just good. It's the good. Oh my gosh, that's my favorite thing about the Clone Wars. So like 7 seasons. 7 seasons, and you had to have one of the main antagonists and one of the main protagonists never meet, even though how cool would that have been to see that animated fight? But because of a honestly kind of dumb throwaway line of dialogue, they could never cross paths. Like that's the continuity we want. But I probably would have even like Stephen Colbert, thank you. That like I probably would have excused it. I would have been like, in the original movie they say they'd never met, but whatever. Like, but it would have been probably worth it to see like an animated fight between them. But no, 7 seasons they avoided each other on a throwaway line. Thank you guys. I knew it was a talk show host, but yes, I definitely appreciate the corrections in chat because I don't want to give out wrong information. And that's that, like, yes, I know that if I vaguely know what I'm talking about, hopefully someone else will pick up the piece and vice versa. I like that we can be vague and enthusiastic and people can fill in the gaps when we need a little help. So thanks for the help. But yes, no, can you imagine the fight between Grievous and Anakin? Like, animated Dave Filoni, Clone Wars style. More screen time, more music, more John Williams-esque emotions, but nope. Creative workarounds for 7 whole seasons. Yeah, right? And that's the thing, though, it's such a dumb line. Like, George Lucas, I love you, man, but really, of all the things to say to somebody, like, General Grievous, you're shorter than I expected. Really, Anakin? Really? Like, that's what kept us away from the coolest fight. Oh well. Squeak. Yeah, no, and then bringing in the Star Killer for Ahsoka, which that was such an interesting time, and not necessarily interesting good, not necessarily interesting bad, just interesting time where, like, The Force Awakens. No, wait, Force Unleashed. Force Unleashed, you have me confused. Force Awakens is the movie. Don't confuse me like that. And the throwaway duck line. No, Force Unleashed. Like, it was a video game, and it could have just been like, you know, whatever. But it was interesting, I think, to be like, oh, weird. Like, we're giving Vader a Padawan. That never happened. And then Dave Filoni's like, but what if we did it again? And it worked. No, it's all good. But yes, the throwaway lines about ducks being canonical in the Star Wars universe because they say, I think it's on the Battle of Endor. No, Battle Hoth. They say we're sitting ducks out here. Again, correct me if I've got my battles wrong, but so, like, you look at a Star Wars, like, compendium of beasts, and there's ducks just because somebody made a line. Also, like, on a theological side, when Han says, when he's talking about his tauntaun freezing, and the guy's like, hey, your tauntaun will freeze before you hit the first marker, and then Han turns around and says, then I'll see you in hell. It's like, oh, you've got, like, beyond Jedi and Sith, you've got, like, established religions with, like, the belief of, an afterlife and of a hell, and that's an interesting, just, again, it's one of my favorite lines in Star Wars, but you start to think of all the implications just like these almost throwaway lines of dialogue bring to the entire world building, and they have to be like, all right, cool, we have ducks, and we believe in hell in Star Wars. In chat, imagine if we could have seen Anakin and Grievous fight in the Gennady Trike. Oh my gosh, that would have been cool. It's Tartakovsky, right? That would have been neat. That would have been really cool. That was a really fun version too. And that was all, a similar time where we were just like playing with the expanded universe. And there were a lot of good comics around that time too. I was talking about those last night where, like, the Robot Legs Maul fighting Obi-Wan on Tatooine, if you like, and then of course, like, I guess mild spoilers with the scene in Rebels. But, like, that was in the comics first, and it was heartbreaking in both versions. And so, like, again, to see them bring that on screen in the animated version made me very happy. And then, like, the expanded lore for Grievous, and, like, there's been some really, really cool, like, expanded universe stuff. And I can't even keep up with all of the comics. For me, most of the time, like, animation stuff can totally keep up with. Comics have, the area I live in, we have now one really good comic shop, but before we did not. So it was really, really hard to get, especially, like, Dark Horse comics. And so it was hard to keep track of all the Star Wars media in print, but animation being more my like one if I had to pick. Yes, that's the Cartoon Network 2D version, the very, very stylistically cool version there. Jingle says in chat, I listen to a podcast where they play Edge of the Empire RPG, and they constantly poke fun at what does and does not exist in the Star Wars. I can only imagine in an expanded role-playing game like that what does and doesn't exist. That would be funny. Yeah, But ducks. Which, you know, like, that's the really funny thing. Like, I'm gonna have to tell my kid that, because my kid loves geese. And ducks are like an acceptable substitute when geese are not available. So maybe I can get her into Star Wars by telling her there's ducks in Star Wars. Yes, I did know that underwear doesn't exist in Star Wars. Thanks to Space Mom. May she rest in peace. I miss Carrie Fisher. Although, you know, that opening cutscene in KOTOR where it's like, apparently we don't believe in pants aboard the Endar Aspire. I also just love things like, and I think that's like the best part about like watching The Mandalorian, knowing that like Favreau and Filoni are like uber geeks, and like them bringing back the like Camtono, which of course is that ice cream machine that the like one guy had in Cloud City, and it was just a prop that someone grabbed, and now it's like part of Star Wars lore, and so it's like, ah, yes, we gave it a cool Star Wars name, but like, ow, I just poked myself. Real geeks know that that's like a ice cream machine. Which is funny because my parents had one pretty similar, and I'm like, heh 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 heh, it's a Camtono of Beskar. Because, you know, it's funny. Gary absolutely was a treasure. Absolutely. And Grabbit says in chat, I'm lucky I found online comic sites. There's a lot of Star Wars comic book rabbit holes I have fallen into. Yeah, that is another good thing about like the internet making things more accessible. Is there are a lot more ways to read comic books than having to get the singles from your local. Like, obviously support your local comic shops, but you know, just even having to track down singles or waiting till like Barnes and Noble or like the big chains got the trades, and it's a lot. It's a lot to keep up with. And you know, like obviously we want to keep print media going, like in the way that it's supporting small artists. And like, I know a lot of people that like got their start in comics or got their break in comics, and so like I don't want to see comics go away. So yeah, anytime we can support our comic book artists, is it cool. Right, I'm just mixing up a custom shade of pink here. Yeah, there's oh, I missed some chat. Okay, yes, the callbacks in Mando are the best I've ever seen. And were we talking about R4? Or were we talking about R4 with his bad motivator? Oh, no, I haven't finished that. That's what happens when that's what happens when friends borrow my books. But no, it's cool. I mean, like, sometimes I think it can be a little cheesy when every single thing is connected. Like, absolutely no hate, but do you guys remember the comic? I don't even remember. It was something, and like Biggs, but like not Biggs Darklight or somebody else, where they like were two random guys that were like supposedly in the background of every single Star Wars like thing that happened in the main like canon, and they were like why the shield generator really went down, and they were why this happened, and it was obviously like comedy, and I think I just wasn't old enough to appreciate it, but it kind of always left me with like this distaste for having to like explain every single thing and give every single thing like, oh, of course it was there, that was the this that okay, Robot Chicken did it, but like in a funny way. And again, I think it's a more adult humor, like not even like by appropriateness, but just by like being on that satire level. Because I originally read that comic and I was probably way too young for it. So like I'm fully admitting that I was not the target demographic. I don't know if anyone else knows what I'm talking about. But yeah, like Phineas and Ferb did it too, and like I love Phineas and Ferb, but yeah, like if they're like, oh, of course our main characters that weren't part of this were the reason that this happened and that happened, and I'm like, no, that's not how that works. Oh, t-shirt and jeans guy, yep. I also love that like do you remember the like hot shorts guy that was the sound boom guy on A New Hope? And I think he just passed away. But there's like production shots, and there's just this like one guy, and it's, you know, they're shooting in like Tunisia, so it's like hot as heck, and he's just in like hot pants. And that's just like what Star Wars fans just like to glom onto. And so like we care about everything from like all the lore to like hot pants guy. And then yeah, t-shirt and jeans guy in the background. Yeah. Like there's so much to know, but I also love that it just comes from like it's funny, but it's also like very wholesome to be like, hey, that guy, everyone's gonna pay attention to him. It's like he wasn't supposed to be there. Oh, for like t-shirt and jeans guy, and then like hot pants guy was a member of the crew. But like I feel like it's just a like sweet and very bizarre way the internet shows love, but it's like it's wholesome as heck. So I'm here for it. So okay, I'm just trying to get some details. I'm trying to get not pink, trying to not get pink paint on what I just painted red. This isn't even like that detailed of a painting. I have done a little bit of miniature painting, like Dungeons and Dragons miniatures, but mostly when I'm painting small, it's just because I have done that yourself. But it's something that's like, I obviously need smaller brushes if I'm going to paint miniatures, but it's also like, my brain is like, oh, you know, it'd be really fun painting miniatures. I'm like, no brain, focus on the task at hand. Cosplay of the t-shirt team guy. You know what? Like, that's the thing. I think if things had been a little bit more open, like just, you know, not COVID-wise, there definitely would have been t-shirt and jeans guy. Smack in my face cam. Sorry, guys. Remember in, like, Jurassic World, like, Jimmy Buffett's margarita guy? Like, I swear there's still, like, 6 of him at every convention. So, like, people love the, like, memes. On my point from chat, on the point of everything not needing to be connected, that one scene from Rogue One with the "you better watch yourself." I don't think I needed that in my life, really. Yeah, it's a hard because I get it, I really do. Like, it's neat that it's all connected, but like on the other hand, like things just happened. Not every line has to matter. It doesn't have to be super deep. It's fake and in space. We can just have people existing. I don't know. I like it. The brain wants it like both ways, because on the other hand, we were just celebrating the General Grievous line that's terrible and influenced 7 seasons, but like it doesn't all have to be so connected. Not every main character has to like know each other, and then the robot has to have lore, and then this, that, and the other. It can be a lot. It can be too much. Like, calm down. There needs to be a balance. Yes. Insert like all force balance memes. Hi, Roof. The bus says hi, everybody. Sometimes when it's hot, because this is a tin can, there'll be like pressure differentials, or the bus will just shift, and then the roof says hi, and it's safe, very safe. It's still has its structural integrity, but just says hello there. All right. Yeah, it's funny. I was freezing yesterday, but as I mentioned, I do live in the desert, and it gets hot in the day, so it's so hard to go from like needing a space heater to needing an air conditioner, and it's December. In chat, callbacks are an art form, and there's no exact science to them, really. It's true. And then that's the thing too, is like if you do it too artfully, people will probably miss it, and like you don't want to like hold your audience's hand either, but like if it goes over their heads, then like is there a point? Which is, I think that's been one of the things, like especially with like the superhero movies, you can only squeeze in so many things, and then like if this is a person's first foray into the superhero, like it can be overwhelming, but like you also got to keep it interesting for the geeks that like this is their like 15th Peter Parker origin story, so there has to be something for them to be watching for in the background. So it's like, yeah, that's a lot of balance there. Stay. Sometimes it can be too much. But I don't know. Part of me is just a little superhero movie'd out, and it's easier for me to bash on them because no hate, just, you know, I think like once you get overwhelmed, it's like, okay, well, maybe it was too much. Maybe slow down. Like, I still want to enjoy these. Like, if you're alienating your like nerd crowd, then maybe you're doing too many, or, you know, all of it is an art, really. Like, it's exciting, and on the other hand, like, it's been cool to see all these like what ifs, and like I really enjoyed WandaVision, and all that kind of more expanded stuff. But then, like, when you sit down and you think about it and you're like, oh, there's so many superheroes and I don't know. Like, I want to care. Like, I really want to care. I loved, like, House of M and stuff in the Marvel comics, and I, like, want to care, but then it's also, there's fatigue from it all. Like, and that even happens, yeah, fatigue, there we go. Even with Star Wars, too. Like, I was really worried when they were announcing all the shows and all the movies, and I'm like, please don't Marvel Universe my Star Wars. Like, I don't have the energy, and I don't want to get burnt out, you know. Like, Star Wars fans are pretty patient. Like, we wait decades between movies. I'm not saying I want to. I'm saying if it's a good time for it, go, but I also don't want to feel like, yeah, we're being milked dry just to, like, capture that interest before it's, like, you know, flash in the pan. But I feel like, again, politics aside, with, like, Rangers of the Republic being canceled, that's at least one more show off the docket. So it's like, phew, okay, we won't get burned out there. So, like, I can be excited for Kenobi. I can be excited for Mandalorian and kind of all the Rebels tie-ins. You know, like, it's not just going to be overwhelming. Yeah, you guys get it. Although I knew chances are it wasn't going to happen, but when they announced Rangers of the Republic, like, Cara Dune, again, that's the whole, like, can we separate, like, creator or actor from, like, who they play? And I liked Cara Dune's character. I thought having, like, a rougher female character in Star Wars was necessary. And, is that a joke about the contractually obligated, or do you, like, actually, like, because either way, like, I get it as a joke, but that'd be cool if you, like, were. So you'll have to elaborate on that. With Cara Dune's character, I wanted to, like, she was built tougher than a lot of the, like, standard kind of Star Wars female archetypes, and I liked that she had history, and so I'm really disappointed to see that kind of blow up. I wasn't totally sure how I felt about her being the lead in Rangers of the Republic, but then there was, like, it's a joke with my podcast where I'm keeping, hey, work is work. That's work. That's cool. That's actually pretty cool. But okay, so, like, I don't know if Cara Dune could be the main character for me. I don't know if she had that. It's not even stage presence, just, I don't know if she had that. She made a great support, you know, both in, like, her acting and then, like, kind of as her, like, class of character. She was playing a sport character. So I don't know if she could have been the main for me. But there were rumors that we were going to get Harrison Dula in Rangers of the Republic, which I would have loved. As much as I fought watching Rebels just because I was so angry about the art style and I was so bitter about the cancellation of Clone Wars, I really liked Rebels. And I was, again, I like Twi'leks and Togrutas a lot. They've always been, like, up there in species that I really enjoyed in the Star Wars mythos. And I was excited to see a main character Twi'lek. And Hera was really well done. And then, of course, I think I'm actually really glad that I did wait on Rebels. Just because when it first came out, I was really busy. I was very rushed. I wouldn't have been able to give it the attention it deserved. But watching it when I did, like, she gave me, like, all the mom feels, and it was really nice to see a different archetype in Star Wars and have, like, a mom character. We didn't really get that. Like, we had it a little bit with Shmi, but she didn't get enough screen time to have that develop. And then, you know, like, I loved her and Kanan, and all the characters were really well done. And of course, as a Ralph McQuarrie fan, just having the concepts of his art, you know, come into life and be in Rebels was really cool too. Yes, please catch up on Rebels. As someone who didn't do it, and, like, now it's funny giving out advice that I should have listened to a long time ago. It's absolutely worth it. Absolutely worth it. But yeah, I know it just takes time. So I'll make sure I keep it spoiler free. But yeah, no, it was good to see Hera. It was good to see a Twi'lek. And so, like, when Rangers of the Republic was rumored, I was just excited. Good, catch up. I love practical effects. I think that's, like, why cosplay was so appealing, why art is so appealing, the practical effects in movies. I was talking a couple streams ago how, like, little me wanted to be a Foley artist. I think I've always liked the idea of adding realism to the fantasy. Like, just making the sounds, making the practical effects, making the things believable. And so, like, yes, I know that it's just, like, latex head tails, but there's something so deeply satisfying about Twi'leks and Togrutas that I love. And so, yes, seeing Ahsoka one, I love Ahsoka as a character, but then seeing the practical effects were fun. And two, like having a rumor of Hera and her Leku were really cool. It was neat to see, again, just an extrapolation and an exploration on like Twilight lore and like just, I remember when like we had Bib Fortuna and that was it. And, like he's cool, but like really getting to see like when they brought in the Calicoris, which you might not be there, but they gave Twilight some really good history, and it brought Thrawn in, and there's just cool stuff going on. So like getting to see that those characters are rumored in live action or confirmed. I think somebody said confirmed. It's just it's neat. It's really neat. But yes, practical effects are super fun. Like CG is awesome, and I think that kind of goes back to just being a polymath, being an artist. It's like there's definitely appreciation for it all, and I wanted to try it all, and but I like to work with my hands. I do a lot with the computer, and that's what I was like trained in. But I don't know. There's something for me about getting my hands messy that'll kind of never replace that. In chat, how was my initial reaction to seeing Ahsoka's head tails being smaller and Mando did change of time? Okay, so like that one, I'm very, very glad that I was given the reason right away. Like, I don't remember why that was like the news story, but they had to make them shorter so that the performance could be better. So like, okay, there was an acceptable justification, because when I first saw them, I was really upset because, of course, the Montreal and the Leku, they grow longer as time, and like they made them crazy long in Rebels, and like, I mean, like I don't know, that's part of like the species like characteristics. So like yeah, when they're changed, it's like oh, like we had like one rule, but yeah. I'm glad they tried, because then that was the other thing too. They did say that they made a longer pair and they looked stupid. So it's like they tried it first. They tried to keep consistent, and then just realized that it was going to look stupid. And so it's kind of that bending of perception, bending of the rules to make it look more believable. Because yeah, if they had kept the long ones and they just like flapped around all dumb, I wouldn't have cared that they were accurate at that point. So yeah, no, it was a bumpy road for about 20 minutes, and then I was like, all right, it's fine. They did a pretty good job. I think that's another thing too, is like being in the cosplay world, whether or not it's a medium I've explored or I've just seen friends explore or whatever. Like I always hate it when cosplayers do it better than like the $1 million movie studios. That's especially true for like Marvel movies. Like hire cosplayers, guys. Like I loved like Umbrella Academy Netflix, but like come on, you did number one dirty. Like we can do better than that. But like, yes, when there's like legitimate reasons, yeah, like to make them shorter. And it's true, Shakti's were massive, but also her robes were massive, and she didn't really jump around, and yeah, she just looked cool. She looked really cool. And that's the interesting thing too, because like you wonder if maybe if Shakti had more screen time, they might have changed the lore back when it was Shakti, and then we wouldn't be having this discussion, because they just would have like capped the Montreal and the Leku length is hard to say back then, and it wouldn't even be a thing, which is like so funny to think of like how many different productions decisions were made, and then the ones that then make it canonically to screen, and then that gets written into background lore, and then we have to like keep with that to have like that consistency is wild. But no, Shaktis were cool. And then yeah, like that's the thing too, is we saw in The Force Unleashed, but they were animated, so like that's different. And I'm glad they didn't CG Ahsoka's head tails. Like, I love that they crease like skin, they crease like latex. Like, yeah, they look like a costume, but like in that like Star Wars way, Like, it feels familiar, it feels good, it feels like Star Wars. So, yeah, I'm good with it. It also, it's also cool too, because then it's like just from like a cosplay perspective, it's like, hey, they're smaller, which means like less latex to make these now. Maybe people can make more. And then it just kind of felt like a callback to like Ahsoka when she first appeared in Clone Wars. Like, yes, obviously they're supposed to grow with time. That's how they go. But there was a style in the 3D animation that Clone Wars had with her first appearance of her Leku. And the shape was like, you can tell somebody did their research and went back and looked at all the shapes. There's a really cool fan-based Star Wars site that makes fan merch called Punch It Chewy Press. and they have a set of Ahsoka patches, which I've got to put them on something. I'm thinking like a jacket, but they took every set of her Montreal and Leku and made them into a patch, so you can see her from like little Ahsoka to like Mando Ahsoka, and there's like 8 variations, and it's really cool. And it, like all of her like jewelry changes, they're really neat patches. I will also put a link to those in the Discord. But yeah, you can tell somebody like they looked at the shapes. It felt right. They did a really good balancing of Rosario Dawson's face and then like the style. I liked it a lot. I liked it a lot. Yeah, and that's the cool thing about getting like 7 seasons to explore a character is not only like did they have time to do like time skips and growth like physically, but obviously the character growth as well. But yeah, and then like I don't know if you've gotten to the part in Clone Wars where there's flashbacks to where Plo finds her and she's like a baby and she's so cute, but like for some reason that scene is like so out of focus, and I think they were trying to do the whole like it's a flashback. But, we, like, sucked up those, like, 12 blurry pixels, and we're like, she's so cute. But it's like, almost too cute that it almost breaks it, because it's like, oh, she shouldn't be that cute. It's, like, Care Bears cute. But I also love it. Like, she's totally chibi. She's totally, like, baby Soka. Also, Plo Koon would be cool to see. I mean, like, yes, obviously we saw him in live action, but, like, it'd be cool to see more. And, like, Dave Filoni loves Plo Koon, which, like, it also just makes me happy when he, like, obviously has his own characters, which is still wild, but then he has, like, his favorites. And I don't know. Like, I don't know if you guys heard the rumor or, like, the report that they told... Has everyone finished Mandalorian Season 1? Yes. Okay, if you haven't, because chat's a little slow, if you haven't finished Mandalorian Season 1, spoilers. Giving you like 10 seconds. 10 seconds of spoilers. And then when my hand's up, there's spoilers. When my hand's back down. Okay, so you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, where like, there's an appearance at the end of Season 1 of Mandalorian, and they told everyone it would be a different character, and one of the characters that they rumored was Plo Koon, and that's, like, super cool. And, like, I don't know, that feels, like, even geekier to me, that Dave Filoni is, like, it might be my favorite. And it's, like, I'm definitely not disappointed in who it was, but on the other hand, as much love as I have for, like, the OG Star Wars characters, sometimes it would have, in my mind, a little bit been better if it had been somebody whose story we haven't heard everything about. Okay, so no spoilers, didn't give it away, but it almost would have been better to have an obscure character fill in, even though that scene was super cool. The concept art for Mandalorian was really neat, and I loved that they did it for the credits. Plus that like theme song like was an absolute bop. But yeah, like there's something about Star Wars and concept art that like, and it's been since Ralph McQuarrie, but like it just has a feel like it just is its own genre of concept art. It's something so uniquely Star Wars, like no matter what it is, and it's cool. It makes me smile too. Sorry, I was down at the bottom of that can and I did not want to make awful noises on the stream, so. Huh. But yeah, no, Mando's been some good stuff. It's funny, like, obviously I cared about Mandalorian lore, which is always a fun sentence, Mandalorian lore. Yep, slurp. Where, like, oh, you're not there yet in Clone Wars. You said you didn't finish Clone Wars. Did I miss that? You're catching up on Clone Wars. Okay. Yeah. But like, Mandalorians are super cool, but they weren't my, like, if I was gonna pick one facet of Star Wars lore, that wasn't my deep dive. But that said, it's been really neat to see it all interconnected. And I think it's been handled in a really, really interesting way. Okay, you didn't see the movie, but so you've seen the whole show. All right, well, I guess just spoilers ahead for the end of Clone Wars, but, like, I don't know, like the way that they did the Siege of Mandalore and brought Maul into it. And see, like that was an interesting way where we like took an established character, but it didn't feel like, oh, we just needed a Star Wars power player. Like it felt real. It felt like he belonged there. Like it absolutely felt like he belonged there. And I loved the way that that was handled. So kind of like after that was done, I was like, okay, well, with like the Mandalorian, if it's handled in half of the same way with all of the Mando lore, I think it'll be interesting. And but it was like, I think what was interesting is like on the surface it seems like such an obscure, like random point to go with the Star Wars franchise. Like hardcore fans are like, well, yeah, duh, we didn't need another Jedi story. We didn't need another Skywalker story. We didn't need, you know, another like politics story. So it made sense. But then like as a if you were like a casual Star Wars fan, it's like, whoa, what's this Darksaber? What's Mandalore? You know. So I thought it was kind of a ballsy choice, actually, to be honest, that they went with that. But I think it was handled so well that it was like accessible to casual and hardcore. Like it didn't patronize anybody. You know, but it was still like worth watching, even if you like knew a lot about Star Wars, and they've been handling it very, very well. So yeah, mad props to them. It's not easy to balance that. And I think that kind of goes back to the Marvel thing where like, oh, cool, another Peter Parker origin story, but you have to get people that don't know into it. And so like, it was interesting with Mando to have that was like both enriching for Star Wars fans and non-Star Wars fans alike. In chat, fans, when Disney doesn't have any new Star Wars news, I was hoping for Kenobi. That's yes. And I am so excited for Kenobi. Like, I almost like don't look up anything about it because I kind of want to be surprised, but on the other hand, it's more I think I just don't want to be disappointed. I don't know. I feel very confident, I think, for the first time since the prequels well, I mean, like, Clone Wars was really good, but as far as, like, live action, because the sequel trilogy missed the mark a little bit for me, not gonna lie, but, like, I feel very confident in the direction that Star Wars is going right now, and so it's, like, I feel like I don't have to, like, hedge my bets as much, I don't have to be anxious about it, and it's just gonna come out, and it's gonna be okay, which is nice to chillax a little bit. But in chat, I really do think Mando is a good show for all fans, for all levels of Star Wars fans, from the casuals to the deep lore fans. It really is. It was a lot of fun. Like I watched it with my folks, and like sometimes, you know, I'd watch an episode and then I'd hear them watching it, but like we watched it at the same time, and it was fun because like they had questions for me, but I also was like, oh, did you guys know this, and like what did you guys think? Because like they're not as deep dive, so it was really fun to have a myriad of fan experiences into that. Also in chat, how did you like how fake Boba Fett's bike was part of Anakin's Pod Racer, or Anakin's Pod Racer was part of... That's the kind of Easter egg that, like, is perfect, because they didn't, like, call attention to it. It wasn't like, oh, we had to have Skywalker in here. It wasn't like, it was an Easter egg, and it was perfect. And also, yeah, as somebody who, like, really formatively grew up on the prequels and, like, you know, had the Lego set and had the model, I was like, I know that piece. And it was exciting. It was absolutely exciting, and getting to point that out was cool. So yeah, that I like visual Easter eggs, because it was plausible. It was absolutely plausible. Yeah, one was, wait a minute. Yeah, like, I know that. But it was absolutely plausible, and it made sense. It wasn't shoehorned in. It wasn't like, oh, we had to have this connected to a Skywalker or it wouldn't be Star Wars. It was the right level. It was the right level. Very tastefully done. So yeah, just shove a seat onto the engine, that ought to do it, right? That's how mechanics works in Star Wars. Which is funny too, because like a lot of the props are just random things laying around. Like the communicator from episode 1 is like a woman's razor that I'm pretty sure I've like had. Just, you know, paint it, slap some extra Star Wars bits on it, which is cool, like, too, for like aesthetics and world building, that it's like not unobtainable. I think like it's easy to make props that look Star Warsy because there's this fun kind of scavengy junk aesthetic to it that's like unique enough, but not like you have to have like laser cutters to achieve or anything. Like it's fun. It's really fun. Plus, again, it goes into that practical effects thing where I love to imagine just people finding trash and being like, okay, what looks the most Star Wars to you? It's like it'd be so fun to be like a fly on the wall. Like in Anakin's bedroom in episode 1, there's a toy, and it's kind of like an addle, but it's like a koosh ball thing. It was this banana, like a fat banana shaped open tube, and then you would like launch koosh balls, and they spray painted it silver instead of the purple that it was. But like we had one as kids, and so like immediately that toy was just like, oh, now it's from space, now it's Star Wars. But yeah, they just like somebody just grabbed something random and went, all right, this is Star Wars now. And I kind of love the brazenness, but also just the like make it work, like big make it work energy. There's a believableness to the props that keeps the franchise around. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's also just really fun. And yeah, especially with space, it can get really campy. It can get really sterile. Like in the best ways. I love how like grungy Star Wars can be. Like when in doubt, just kind of add a wash over it and, kind of grind off some of the edges, and now it's Star Wars. Like it's fun to have a visual aesthetic that works. Oh, that's funny. That's really funny that the koosh ball thing has now come up for you like a couple days in a row. Like, what are the odds? I'm getting some like awful sunlight coming in through the window, so I apologize for the like blinding light. I try to normally only go till about 3, and darn planet being on a tilted axis, giving me different sun. But funny, it's always temperature in here. One day I will be a little bit better insulated, and it won't be like, hey, I have to go because I'm hot or cold. It'll just be like, hey, I have to go because I'm a human with responsible limits. But yeah, no, it's getting a little warm in here because I've got the sun streaming right in. So I apologize for the blinding. I'll try to block the very shiny light there. Yeah, like, oh no, we're having fun, right? I never want to get off stream because I'm having fun, but I also don't want to sweat, and I should probably drink something that isn't coffee too. But I had too much fun last night and needed the caffeination. That was fun though. So yeah, I think I'm gonna do the I have it right now every other Saturday for Star Wars. I think if y'all are amicable, I will amiable, move it to every Saturday after my crafters and streamers. So, and yeah, I might right. I know, and it's like, but I have things that I need to do, but I don't want to do, and one of them involves like not sweating. So I should hydrate, because as much fun as I'm having, we're taking care of mental health and we're taking care of physical health, and I'm gonna go drink some water like a non-dehydrated cucumber with anxiety. So, but I really appreciate you guys being here. I don't want to leave. I am gonna see if I've got some people online. Maybe. I've got a couple people that are online. If you guys are interested in a fellow crafter that I've rated before, just the once, but they make like terrain and miniatures, which is also really cool. And I kind of joke that like when I retire, like from what, I do weird stuff all the time. I don't think there will be a formal retirement, but when I retire, I want to get into miniatures, like from everything from like trains to like Victorian mansions to like the like miniatures with like cool robots and junk, and find some way to blend all those together. But so I will put it on a raid, just if you guys still want a creative voice chatting in your ear, but also if you've got to go, I totally understand that. Thank you for being here with me. I very much appreciate it, and I hope you guys had fun. As always, the bus's doors are always open, and you're welcome on board the bus. Always. So yeah, I'm gonna slap it over and do a raid just to share the love. Right? Doesn't it sound like a great retirement? I just want to make miniatures. Maybe I'll find a way to retire early and just make miniatures or put it on the channel. I don't know. I am making this up as I go along, and it's both the most terrifying thing and the most rewarding thing. So, all right, I will see you next time. Thanks for joining. All right, we're gonna raid. You guys ready for this? If you're new to Twitch or new to my channel, raiding, just as a definition, we are going to go lovingly crash someone else's party, because what better way to leave this energy, but by passing it to somebody else. So some very wholesome aggression, and we're going to go spread the love. So we're going to raid Social Alien, who is crafting in the Makers and Crafting channel, working on miniatures.